From the Smith Radio Studios, it's Carey and Brian Smith. This is Smith Radio. You can tweet at Smith Radio, SMYTH Radio. And now, your hosts, Carey and Brian Smith.
Good Friday.
Good Friday, everybody. Welcome to Smith Radio. Your host, Brian Smith, and
Carey Smith.
Giving you the late-breaking news of the past week, wrapping it all up, making sense of it all, explaining to you what they won't tell you, telling you what they do tell you, but then letting you know what they're lying to you about.
What do you mean by they? Who's they?
Them folk.
Oh, them folks.
Them folks. This is a special edition of Smith Radio. This is Easter weekend, and Carey and I are all tied up all weekend, so we are doing a very, very special playing hooky from work type of show. First thing in the morning.
It's Good Friday. Who's working?
I'm good about it now. We were supposed to work. Folks, if you follow us, you know that I work for a gold company, not a goldsmith, a gold company, and they are doing their end of the year inventory. So they kicked us out. They told us you can't come to work. So there are people working on Good Friday. Shouldn't be, but there are. All right, folks, let's get into it and what's going on. We've got a big, big show for you today. A good friend of ours, good friend of the show, Laura Loomer, should be on here a little bit later on. Well, we have her slated to come on here in the second hour. So for those of you getting fired up.
Be fired up.
Be fired up.
Right. Definitely.
In the second hour, we're going to talk about everything that's going on. We got Jeff Sessions, and I just got some breaking news from some folks. If you guys want to be a part of Smith Radio, I just got a huge heads up from our folks in our private message meetup group. We have a private group to where we talk to folks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You could talk to us, we talk to you, and you all talk to each other. It's a Smith Radio meetup group. Go to patreon.com right there on the screen, patreon.com/Smith Radio, and this is how I got the late breaking news on the FISA abuse scandal. Jeff Sessions talking about a second
It's kind of funny how this little meetup group that we created just to kind of give back to the fans, to kind of be more connected with them, ends up being a part of show prep. They become producers, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's so funny. That's awesome.
And I mean,
you're literally part of the show now.
Yes. And if you are in that group, I'm scrolling through the messages right now. I was looking for I'll have to find it later. I'm not quite sure exactly who sent it to me. It might have been Sam Keels, good buddy of the show. But I just got information about the Jeff Sessions investigation with whether it's going to be a special counsel, second special counsel or not, and how that played out. I know in the last couple of shows and some of my scopes, I keep saying there is a special counsel. There's already a second special counsel. Well, there was, but not given that name. And we'll get into all that and what that's all about.
You're going to have to explain that one to me because that's a mystery.
Yeah, it's all good. We got Donald Trump tweeting out, showing pictures of the wall, baby. He's building the wall. He's building the wall.
But the omnibus says he's not allowed to.
Apparently he's not allowed to build it in concrete, so he's using steel.
But he's not allowed to use the designs that he looked at.
Right, he's using something different.
How childish and juvenile and petty are you when you're a lawmaker and you're like, how do we prevent him from building this wall? Hey, let's make it a law that he can't use any of the designs that he looked at. Like he can't just find another designer. It's just so petty. And then, well, what if he just starts putting bricks up or whatever? Well, let's make it so that it can't be out of concrete. It's crazy.
Well, we're talking about Republicans. We're talking about the GOP. I mean, as petty as you can possibly get. You know, don't forget that it was Paul Ryan and John McCain who were involved in one Russiagate with the dossier and Christopher Steele, and also the Graham by the Posse Gate. You talking about two Republicans?
Yeah, the coup that happened 30 days prior to the election?
Yeah, and it's still going on. It is still going on to this day. If you listen to the last show last week, we talked all about the omnibus bust and who was involved and who was involved and whose fault it was. We're also going to talk about Barack Obama, the DNC, and the coup that is currently in full swing. They are, folks, it's out of control. This whole March for Our Lives that went down last week, the stuff that has come out about who's behind it, who's funding it, how it's funded, what is really going on. Laura Loomer did some investigative reporting and actually called Southwestern Airlines.
Ooh.
Southwestern got back to her.
Is it Southwest or Southwestern? I think it's Southwest.
Oh, Southwest, sorry. It's out in the western states.
Yeah, whatever.
Southwest.
Yeah, we call it Southwestern so we don't get sued.
Okay, cool. Well, they actually got back with her and gave her some very interesting information that the March for Our Lives people might not be happy to hear. Or they might be. Stick around in 3.5 hours. I'm just joking.
We're not going to do that to you guys.
No, would never do that. David Hogg and Laura Ingraham had a all-out fist fight. I think Laura Ingraham has learned a very valuable lesson.
And I have something to say about that is pretty much repeating what Paul Joseph Watson said. So remind me of that.
Oh, I didn't hear PJW.
Yeah, he said something I thought was very, very good and wise and good advice, and we'll talk about that.
Cool. Pulse, the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting, if you guys remember that. The wife is on trial. The trial is wrapping up. The verdict was expected yesterday or today, but jury is still out on it. Laura Ingraham. Laura Loomer was actually there covering it.
As a journalist, exercising First Amendment rights.
We know her as a journalist, but others there
apparently were. It doesn't matter. Well, I learned something from some of our friends in new media about that. I've learned a lot that we can talk about when that comes up.
Awesome. And then we've got also part of the deep state and Obama and everything that's going on. They've got this JTF MAGA. JTF MAGA. It's former deep state, former folks that worked for the NSA, TSA, CIA, FBI, who are banding together as a group to help support Donald Trump and expose the evils that is part of the deep state that we report on in the coup. So we'll get into that. If we have time, we might run out of it. If we have time, I will touch on the Menendez case. It's only – leave it up to a Democrat. Leave it up to a Democrat that was able to get $500 million on port security contracts in the Dominican Republic and turn around and have his friend pay for private jets, hotel rooms, forked over $75,000 in campaign contributions. Oh, leave it to a Democrat. Hey, Kerry, he was a friend. Like we're brothers.
Well, that makes it even more corrupt.
No,
right?
It's a gift. It's a gift between brothers. It's closer than that. Come on, man. We're brothers.
Yeah, sounds like textbook corruption to me.
Brothers from another mother.
Unbelievable.
So we'll touch on that if we got the chance. Hey, I do want to start off with this, though. You brought this up a while ago, maybe a couple of years ago on our show. You've brought it up. You've brought it up multiple times.
Old school. We're going Throwback Friday.
But we and then we got into it a little bit. It's the and I scoped about this District of Columbia. Dick Anthony Heller versus the District of Columbia.
Yeah, D.C. versus Heller. Yeah, or Heller versus D.C., whichever one you like to say.
Either one. And you're like, well, what's that all about? Well, I pulled it up, and it was a 2008, argued March 18th, 2008, and decided June 26th, 2008. So what's the big deal about that?
So there's a cop in D.C., and I guess I should back up even further. So in D.C., apparently, you're not allowed, or you weren't allowed, to own a firearm at all. You weren't allowed to possess it in your house or anything.
Well, they said in the arguments, if you did have a license, a special license from the police, and you did have the firearm in your house, it must be disassembled and specially locked, some kind of special lock. But it had to be completely disassembled and a special lock on the weapon in the house. And you had to have a license.
So it wasn't just some random Joe, which, by the way, could have been a random Joe that decided, to hell with this, I'm going to do it and try to stop me and then, go through the court system, go up to the Supreme Court and whatever. But this was a cop, and it's pretty sad that it needed to be a cop because it looks, the optics are a lot worse for the opponents of the Second Amendment. That you're preventing a cop during off duty to possess his own firearm in his house to protect his home and his family and his loved ones, his children, his wife, whatever, or husband in case you're a woman. But in this case it was Matt. But he was like, what? That's ridiculous.
You think about that. This guy has a gun as part of his uniform.
Yeah.
A gun.
But he would be arrested if he were to have that gun.
He's not allowed to take it home.
Off duty. Off duty. If he was off duty, he would be violating some crazy D.C. laws. So he decided to hell with this. Now, there's a lot of different ways to challenge unconstitutional laws. You could be arrested and defend yourself, and then that could go all the way up. Or it could be upheld in a lower court, but in this case went all the way to Supreme Court. But he decided he's just going to sue.
Right.
So he ended up getting all the way to the Supreme Court. And the reason we brought it up a couple years ago is we started this show during the Obama administration to try to warn others of what's happening and what's coming and what could happen and how we could be dealing with another takeover of another country like we've seen in the past in Europe. Or like in Russia, it was more like a revolution, but it seemed to me like a little bit more like Hitler, where Hitler decided, you know what, we're just going to abolish the presidency and abolish elections, and we're just going to make me chancellor for life or whatever.
Kerry, that's the only place that's ever happened. That never happened anywhere else. Yeah. Venezuela, Hugo Chavez did it.
Right, so we were worried about that, and so we started this show. And the thing that was shocking, this needed to be heard, that the Second Amendment was upheld. This Heller versus D.C. was so pivotal. This is like one of the most historically pivotal moments in all of Second Amendment history for sure, but a big, big moment in American history. Because had this been upheld, had the D.C. law been upheld, that would have been it for the Second Amendment. And if you read the dissent, go ahead and look it up on Wikipedia. When you read the dissent, which were the losers, the ones that didn't win this Supreme Court decision, you realize that this really was it for the Second Amendment, because it was going to be interpreted that you must be a part of a government-assembled army, and they called that a militia. So they were redefining the word militia in order to basically say that you can't bear arms unless you're a part of the militia, and you can't be a part of a militia unless it's assembled by the government. And here's the scary part. The Second Amendment was upheld by a vote of 5-4.
Yeah.
That's how close it was. We were that close. And
who was the tiebreaker?
I guess any of the five were a tiebreaker. If any of the five went the other way, that was it.
I kind of call out the one who wrote the dissenting. Mm-hmm. The one who Anthony Scalia.
Oh no, he was the one that voted for what do they call the opposite of dissenting? The majority, I guess.
Yeah, he wrote for the majority, and basically explained common sense. He said, "Hey, folks, this was written in the time and day, and the words that were used for the folks that weren't lawyers. They were written for the common folk. So when they say to right to bear arms should be uninfringed." A well-regulated militia, they knew then it was just your common folk.
Well, yeah, the definition of militia is a citizen-assembled army.
Right, so they're trying to redefine another word again.
Well, they do that all the time. That's actually their MO, is to redefine words, and we reject that because then contracts fall apart, right?
Correct.
You can nullify a contract by redefining the words that are in it. And same thing with laws. You can change laws not by doing it the right way, but actually saying, well, you know what, I'm going to redefine this word. I think this word means something else now.
Right.
Now all of a sudden the law's changed. So, in D.C. versus Heller, they're trying to say that a militia was something that's basically the Army or the National Guard or something like that, which is not the case. And that was the dissent, and it's scary. And this was the scariest moment during that time, if you can remember this. Antonin Scalia died, and that was it. We figured that's it. The and Obama was president, if Obama had appointed somebody to replace Scalia, the next Heller versus DC, that would have been it. We'd have lost it because it was only upheld 5-4, and
you have one flip the other way, and it's 4-5.
Right, it would have been 5-4.
Well, I say 4-5 because they're losers.
Yeah,
you got more losses.
The losers would have won. So, and they are losers,
right? And so it says District of Columbia. It held that the Second Amendment protects an individual right to possess a firearm, and that the city's total ban on handguns, as well as its requirements that firearms in the home be kept non-functional, even when necessary for self-defense, violates the right the Court of Appeals directed.
That's so obvious. And the funny thing, or the sad thing, actually, the scary thing, is that the Second Amendment is probably, I think, the shortest of all laws, I think, that have ever been written. It could have even been shorter. The fact that it says a well-regulated militia being necessary to a free state, that whole sentence doesn't even need to be in there. It could have just said the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's it, because that's really all. That's really all it is.
Right.
The first half of that sentence is only there as an explanation as to why the right to keep and bear arms is there. That's all it is an explanation as to why. That's it. So anyway. So DC versus Heller, very scary, scary moment in time there.
So Donald Trump tweeted out this week, Second Amendment will not be overthrown. Right, don't even worry about that. A lot of people got triggered over that, and this protest, this march, they said, no, it wasn't a protest, the Second Amendment. But if you look at all the signs being held by the parents and some youth, we'll get into that, all said repeal the Second Amendment and shut down the NRA. Well, studies come out. What was the study? The study came out and said only 10% of the D.C. Marchers for Lives were teenagers, 18 and under.
Can you explain that argument? Why that's so significant? I mean, I'm like, okay, so what difference does it make? I mean, if 1 million people show up to march against something, does it really matter what their ages are?
Well, yeah, this was put together by the children.
Is that so?
We have to listen to the children, Karen.
Did they really try to make that argument?
Yes. Barack Obama said, "I wish there were 1 million people, 1 million youths like me, because the place is run by old men, and we need to listen to the youth." Okay. And that this entire demonstration, March for Our Lives, was put together by the youths. It was natural grassroots uprising, right?
Turf, astroturf, completely.
Completely. So it was astroturf, not grassroots.
Totally astroturf. Fake grass there. Yeah, okay, so the argument is that this was put together by the high school kids. It's founded by the high school kids, organized by the high school kids. And by the way, for those of you that are like, come on, Carrie, we knew that wasn't even something that they're capable of doing. They just too inexperienced. I mean, this is a major undertaking, but that's what was reported on CNN. I mean, I watched for Oppo research, and there were expert commentators, there were anchors, whoever it was, journalists that were on there praising this march that was organized by high school students. And I remember every time I heard that said, I'm like, you liars, you're not even trying to represent the truth here.
Well, not only that, but you're like you were saying, Brian, Carrie, and nobody believes that. You say nobody believes that, but I'm telling you right now, this is optics for the other youth. This is optics for the other individuals. I'll be nice about it, who have not quite made up their mind. I won't call them mush for brains, but if they haven't made up their mind, and there's a lot of folks that I know that are younger. I hate politics. I don't get into it. But then all of a sudden, something like this shows up. They're like, look, the kids did it all. I'm like, come on.
This will get them involved in politics. Is that how it works?
Well, it's the little...
just wait till they find out they're being lied to.
It's the little crumbs, the little nuggets that they attach onto and that they run with. And it's insanity.
You know, when you look at some of the rehearsal videos of David Hogg... And
Yes.
and then you see some of the videos where he's contradicting his eyewitness testimony in several different videos. You come to realize that this is his whole thing is he knows that politics in mainstream media is fake. He knows that it's made up, it's a narrative, it's
like
fiction.
WWE.
Right, and his take on it, like when I found out that I'm being lied to back in 2000 when there was the debacle between Bush versus Gore, I was largely not really that interested in politics. It was the Bush versus Gore debacle that caused me to get some interest. And when I found out the amount of lying that's happening on the left, just being propagated out on the news and everything, I was so outraged. I was so angry that I pretty much from that day forth to this day vowed to fight against the dishonesty and the lies. David Hogg is kind of a microcosm of the other type of person. There's the Kerry type who's like, and Brian type too, that are like, we are not going to let these people get away with these lies, and just they get outraged by it, you know? And the other side is the David Hogg side, and he's not the one that invented this, or he's not the leader of this. He's just a high school student. But there's so much demonstrated fact. There's so much that has been recorded of him that demonstrate what I'm talking about, which is that he knows this is all smoke and mirrors.
Absolutely.
He knows this is smoke and mirrors. He's participating in it. Either A, because he's actually an actor. He's in drama in school. Like he's one of those guys that when a play happens, he's one of the actors in it. He's in drama at school, yeah. And so I think that he likes the idea of playing a role and reading a script.
Well, he's getting attention too.
Yeah, you're getting attention like you're on stage. And whenever you're doing a play and you're acting, you're lying in a good way. You're representing something that you're not, but you're doing it for entertainment. And everybody knows, everybody in the audience knows, oh, look at David Hogg play the Beast in Beauty and the Beast or something like that. And so they know that David Hogg is not a beast. They know he's playing the character.
Just look at him. You know he ain't no beast.
Right, but when it comes to journalism, there's this universal belief that when you're watching or listening to journalism or reading journalism, that you're hearing the most accurate representation of what happened possible, and that the people writing it or saying it to you are attempting to convey what actually happened the best way possible. And when you find out that they're creating some fictional narrative and passing it off, it's like the feeling I felt when I was 7, 8 years old when my dad said, WWF is not real.
That's back before it was WWE. Right. That's back before they
It's not real. I'm not talking about the women's federation. I'm talking about the World Wrestling Federation that's now World Wrestling.
Why'd they have to change their name?
Because the World Women's Federation, they're the WWF.
Oh,
they were so angry.
Okay, they got triggered.
Which is crazy because the WWF was like, they had that name for like 20 years. But the Women's Federation had that name for a little bit longer, like 30 years. Okay. And they're like, daggone it, we don't want to be called the wrestlers anymore.
Yeah, but we're more popular than you are.
I think I mean, if your brand is bigger than another brand, I don't know if timing.
I think you should own it.
Yeah, I think you should. Yeah, something like that. But anyway, getting back to the point, the outrage I felt when my first feeling when my dad told me that was, why is my dad lying to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would my dad say something like that? Doesn't he know he's angering me?
That's awful.
I like watching these wrestlers jump off the top rope and really try to win.
Jimmy Fly Snuka.
When I'm told that one person beat another person, or when I see it myself, I know that one guy is stronger, better, and more skilled than the other guy.
I know. I just watched Hulk Hogan just win like all the time
against Andre the Giant. So he must be the best. He must be the strongest, the most skilled.
Even Andre the Giant, his hand was as big as Hulk Hogan's body.
Something like that. He could like grab him by one hand. Yeah, something like that. So
he still beat him.
So my dad said that, and I was outraged that my dad was trolling me. And then when I finally realized, wow, I think my dad might be right, I was pretty outraged, and I'd never watched it again. I just did. It was insulting.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So anyway,
real quick, the donations to the NRA Political Action Committee after this March for Our Lives in the month of February compared to the month of January tripled and surged 3 times what they were in January as Parkland gun control activists and media outlets blamed the NRA for gun violence. Folks, remember this. I know 2018 is going to be a tough year. We all know that. There's an election year. We've got to stick to it, and we've got to stay on point. We've got to get the word out, and the Democrats are spending money like you wouldn't believe to get the word out. And people that are part of the Democrat narrative and the agenda, the sources of the world. And so we've got to get that out. But folks, in the past, when Democrats railed against the Second Amendment and ran on repeal the Second Amendment, when they ran on that, they lost phenomenally in the face of it's just unbelievable how bad they lost. The losses were huge for the Democrats when they railed against Second Amendment, and now they're also running on illegal immigrants should have citizenry and all this nonsensical thing. So, not saying I'm trying to comfort you and make you feel good about. Hey,
it's good news.
We got to get out and vote.
It's good news. Yeah, don't. The thing that scares me is you got your Pennsylvania, you got your Alabama. These elections seems like the reason the Democrats were winning was low voter turnout for the Republicans. And I know there's some excuses like, well, there was redistricting in Pennsylvania that caused people that were supposed to vote to not know they were supposed to vote or go to the wrong place.
It was raining.
Well, raining actually helps the Republicans.
I
because
know.
They know how important voting is, and it's like rain, sleet, or snow for those people.
Right. That's right.
So that the good news is the Second Amendment issue is waking people up. The First Amendment issue is waking people up, and they're outraged. And and then the Stormy Daniels thing is actually helping Trump.
They showed that Trump's approval rating amongst women since CNN ran with Stormy Daniels.
Did you hear about the evangelicals? But go ahead about the women.
Women, just women in general, his rating is up 5 points from before Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, and I heard there's like a Washington Post or New York Times article, I can't remember which, but it was totally left-wing because they were trying to use it as a way to bash evangelicals. But they said 8 out of 10 evangelicals supported Trump in the past, and now with the Stormy Daniels thing, it's even stronger. And I would like to explain that to you guys because nobody seems to know why, and certainly not the article that I was reading that was talking about it. They were kind of like, you know what? These evangelicals, they're a bunch of hypocritical people, and they're going to hell. It's kind of these are liberal atheists writing this stuff. Right. So that's why I kind of laughed. They don't understand the way evangelicals work, and I'm not saying I'm an evangelical expert. I don't consider myself evangelical, but I'll tell you, I think I have. I think I might be right on this. Brian and I talked about this last week. So. Evangelicals.
Refresh me.
Okay. Oh, yeah. You'll remember this conversation. Evangelicals have studied, just like everybody, we've all studied Trump very carefully over the past 2 years.
Right.
We've all looked at what he's done, listened to people that have worked with him over the years, of all different colors, creeds, whatever, religions, anything.
Mike Tyson
said, no, he's a good man. He's not racist, all this. So after all this time of really listening to him, we've come to the conclusion that this is a good man, a man of good character overall.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure, he's said some things that sounded kind of crass, maybe a little sexist, maybe, trying to be funny.
What about that time at the he had a big rally and there's a black kid and he's like, yeah, this is my boy up there. Hey, you can't say that. You can't say my boy.
I think he said he's my African American or something like that. You remember that? Look, that's my African American or something. It was something silly. It was something
even
silly.
Funnier.
Yeah, because you can't. You're really not supposed to do that.
But nobody would do that. Trump did though.
It is definitely a triggering moment. I'll tell you what, it would be triggering to me if I was handling him at the time. I'd be like, oh gosh. Right. So, but no, I mean, character-wise, it's like, I think if you were to ask me about Eddie Murphy, I mean, think about everything he's done later. Like, he's done all these voiceovers for cartoons for children and all this kind of stuff. When you see him in interviews, he doesn't say a single cuss word. I believe he has children, whatever, happy life, everything's fine.
He gives rides home to people who are destitute.
Oh, really?
And need to get home.
Whatever. I know where you're going with that. No, I'm talking about today.
Well, he picked up that tranny.
Well, that was you're taking away from my point here. You are totally taking. I'm saying
it adds to your point because that was back in the day.
Okay, so
long time ago.
If you were to ask me about the character of Eddie Murphy, knowing what I know today, I would say this is a man of good character. But if you were to say, well, what about this? And give me a clippet of his worst sayings from Eddie Murphy Raw and Delirious and some of his earlier movies and maybe even some, there was a point where Saturday Night Live, their first episode ever that was going to be not 100% live, they were going to go on like an 8 or 10 or 20 second delay. It was their first ever not fully live episode of Saturday Night Live was when they had Eddie Murphy on because they just knew
couldn't take that chance.
There was no way that he was going to be able to do a skit without accidentally slipping out a bad word. They just do it. So they had a delay and whatnot. My point is that he's come a long way.
Right. I mean, if it's genuine and bona fide, sure.
It seems pretty genuine to me.
And he hasn't been in trouble with the law.
Yeah, and the thing that I think that everybody, not just evangelicals, but everybody who supports Trump has realized is that this is a guy who's a genuinely good guy. He breaks down on the highway, and a guy that comes and fixes his limo or whatever he was in and gets him on his way ends up getting his house paid off.
Yeah.
And never utters a word about it. He doesn't take credit for it.
No.
He doesn't say a word. No. He doesn't want to say a word about it. And he just did it. And there's all kinds of examples. That's just one example. He has the I can't remember her name, but there was a black woman who worked for him and had all kinds of trouble, big trouble, and she was given a second chance and she was helped out by Trump. I mean, even Omarosa got a big second chance.
They said
probably didn't deserve it.
No. They said down in his estate down there in Mar-a-Lago, the butler spoke up. He said when Trump comes to Mar-a-Lago, he walks around the grounds and he'll meet up with the people taking care of the yard and some of the workers and whatnot, and say something to them. He said that he'll just walk up and just give him $100 bill.
Right, and
that's about here,
and that's big money for people. Anybody,
you give me $100 bill. I love it. Thank you, sir.
That's going to make my week, make my month. You know,
my wife was a really good manager where she worked at before because she did this out of her own pocket. The girls that she managed at the front office, she would every once in a while, once a month, would go buy a $25 gift certificate at Starbucks. Just give it to them.
Awesome.
And they loved her for that.
That's very, very appreciative when people do stuff like that. And it doesn't matter that, well, as a billionaire, that's insignificant. No, it's not. It's not insignificant. But here's my point. This is why the evangelical support went up over the Stormy Daniels thing. Some evangelicals, I'm going to put them into two camps. Some of them are like, this is a porn star. We're not going to believe this crap.
Well, not only that, but she gets paid to do something that most people would be arrested for.
Probably, yeah, right. Okay,
I'm just saying.
I'll go with you on that. And so
you got to have a license to do that kind of thing.
So there's certain evangelicals that are like, we're not going to listen to her, and we're not going to listen to CNN. Who will not – this is their lead every single hour. On every show that they got, this is their lead, and they're beating it to a pulp. They're beating that dead horse. You can't even tell it's a horse anymore.
Rush Limbaugh said on his show, he said, hey, folks, if you all want to go watch porn, go ahead, turn on CNN. because that's all they got all day.
Yeah, somebody said that they were people are excited that they can now look her up on the internet to do some research for journalism.
They said after the Anderson Cooper interview with her last week, well, we were doing our show.
Yeah.
Anderson Cooper and Stormy Daniels. They said Pornhub reported that there was a huge spike in searches for Anderson Cooper.
Oh, Anderson Cooper? Seriously? They're uploading CNN clips onto Pornhub. Oh my gosh. All right. So anyway, evangelicals, part of them are like, this is a porn star. We don't believe her. My wife, she's devout Catholic, very serious, big time Catholic. She watched the CNN. The 60 Minutes. The 60 Minutes episode
with Anderson Cooper.
And we couldn't watch it because we did a show.
Not only that, but I would be sick to my stomach to watch.
So I said, wifey, not doxing her, could you tell me what your thought was?
What the takeaway?
Did he cheat on his wife? And she said, no, I don't. I think she's lying. I don't think it happened. So that was big to hear from her. So there's people that like that, very religious and whatnot, who just don't believe it because the way she came off in the 60 Minutes interview and the fact that she's got a background that may discredit her. That's part of it. The other part of it, which I think is more significant, is that evangelicals really believe in forgiveness.
More so than any liberal. I promise you that.
Yeah, their whole thing, and some of the most outspoken evangelicals have like a background of like alcoholism or abuse, or maybe they were in prison and stuff like that.
Man, they railed against a W. Bush for being a born again. Oh yeah, fake born again.
Oh, they love that. They love that.
Oh, they made fun of him for that stuff.
Yeah, but the evangelicals loved it.
Bring it in.
So the point is that when they have already made the determination from 2 years of observation and close studying of this guy, close scrutiny, that he is now a man of good character, the more stuff that they hear about how bad of a person he may have been 10 years ago, or in some cases more, the more impressed they are with his transformation.
Turnaround
into a man of good character. They're more impressed with it now.
Yeah, but Kerry,
wow, he was that bad.
Yeah, but
wow.
Kerry, he said to Billy Bush, grab him in the posse. But, Kerry, that was only 10 years ago.
Well, that's exactly what they would say. They would say he's now.
Yeah, but he was 60 when he said it.
Well, you can make that kind of argument, like how much can you change? And hey, in the world of evangelicals, you get born again, or you go and ask for forgiveness and whatnot.
See, something else too is that we know, even in the Bible, if you are a Christian and you've read the Bible and you know the Bible and you look at it and you treat it the right way, you'll understand that it says in the Bible we can't even judge ourselves. You are not allowed to judge yourself because you wouldn't do it correctly. That's the big thing about Christians. You're not supposed to judge anybody ever.
Right. So that's the phenomenon in a nutshell. Basically, they've determined that he's a man of good character, and CNN is not going to change their mind on that. And when they find out that all of this debauchery and whatnot, if they believe it, if they believe that it's true, when they find out that this is what kind of a person he was back in the day prior to him becoming this man of good character, they're impressed by it. They're more impressed by it. Give us even more dirt from back in the day. They're gonna be like, wow, this guy really made a turnaround. This can happen to you. See how it doesn't matter where you started in life.
Nope.
You bring in God and you ask for forgiveness into your for your life, and you could be born again.
Absolutely. And they don't get that. They don't get that.
No,
and they
CNN
honestly
doesn't get it.
They honestly believe, because the way that they look at us, their projection, the way they look at us, they honestly believe that they can destroy anyone by saying that he's a sinner. Look at this dirty SOB. He's awful. Look
they're not looking at it. They think that if you sinned once, you're a sinner forever. And Christians don't believe that.
No. Well, we believe in forgiveness. We believe we all sin.
If you ask for forgiveness, that's
what it is.
Yeah.
Anyways, but we're not saying whatsoever. I don't believe Stormy Daniels whatsoever. I saw CNN.
I'm kind of with my wife. I mean, I think when she answered the question, "Did you guys have sex?" and she goes, "One time." I mean, that kind of answer and the look on her face. I play poker.
Yeah.
I can read people. I think her poker face wasn't that great. I think that...
Well, she violated the non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah,
hold on. If it was for that. They're saying it ain't even for that.
Yeah, whatever. The point is that if she was answering the question, I wasn't convinced, and my wife wasn't convinced, and I don't know. Why would you say one time? Like, he didn't ask you how many times.
Oh.
That's a tell. I'm going to tell you right now, that's a tell.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's something about we're going to get into later, the Pulse nightclub shooting, when the cops were talking to the wife about what was going on. She said something about guns, and the cop's like, I didn't say anything about guns.
Yeah, when you start answering a different question, Anderson Cooper did not say, how many times did you have sex?
He just said, did
you have sex? Oh, one time. That's what you say. I don't know if I want to go too far into this, but
that's what you say when you're young and you're trying to get out of trouble. It's just what happens.
Yeah, like did you open that cookie jar? Did you have a cookie? Did you eat?
One time, Daddy. I swear, just one. No,
that
you did. That
means you either ate all the cookies or whatever. So I don't know. And Stormy Daniels wasn't trying to make the argument that they had a bunch of sex all over the place.
No.
Or wasn't trying to hide that. It's like, no, we didn't have sex. Well, one time.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. Anyways,
it was bad.
So just to wrap this up real quick, we were talking about the March for Our Lives, ran into Second Amendment, talking about the NRA donations through the roof, talking about Donald Trump building the wall, the prototypes for the wall, and during that discussion we had about the Second Amendment, it was Cuomo on CNN that said this week, he was talking to Rick Santorum, he said, hey, ain't nobody calling for the repeal of the Second Amendment. What are you all talking about? He ran all over Rick Santorum. He couldn't pull it together.
They are calling for the ban on the Second Amendment.
So Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens, former Supreme Court Justice, he was in that D.C. versus Heller.
Right.
And he voted to ban guns. And he took to New York Slime's op-ed piece, who agreed 100% with him. John Paul Stevens says the right to bear arms has run its course, and now's the time to repeal.
America has run its course.
Yeah, now's the time to repeal the Second Amendment. He suggests that the student protesters should not shift their course from pursuing legislation and pursuing change in the Constitution. Stevens expressed his continued disagreement with District of Columbia versus Heller. And the New York Times op-ed writer agreed with him. So there's two people right there calling for the abolishment of the Second Amendment.
Yeah. I mean, he was the loser in the decision.
Correct.
He voted with the minority, and that's why
it's run its course, though.
It's run its course. America has run its course. We don't need the right to freedom of speech. Wow, can you believe what's happening in the UK with that freedom of speech stuff?
That's a nightmare. How do you – well, you have the first Muslim mayor in London who says, killings and bombings, that's part of big city living.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Big city living.
Which big city? I live in a big city. We live in a pretty big city. I mean, it's not one of the biggest ones, but it's a pretty decent-sized metropolis.
Do not speak out against Islam. Don't do it.
But bombings are not a regular part of our – I mean, I could walk anywhere in the city and not really have an expectation of possible gunfire and that kind of stuff, or
being blowed up,
or a truck running into a crowd.
Okay.
I kind of expect that that's not going to happen.
I would hope not.
So I don't. It's a shame what's happening in England. Tommy Robinson got banned from Twitter this week.
Really?
Totally banned, 100%.
What did he do?
He was. He's been speaking out against Islam, and I guess they just didn't like the wording. Radical Islam. In fact, I think he used the phrase radical Islam, which historically, when it comes to censorship, if you use the phrase radical in front of Islam, that usually gave you the caveat. Like, I'm not talking about all Muslims. I'm talking about just the, radical, the terrorists who believe in killing in the name of Islam, that kind of stuff, and usually get off with that kind of language, and apparently not anymore at all. So he's been banned from Twitter, and it's
unfortunate. And here's the case I'm making, and I'd like to save this for Laura, but I got to throw this out. I'll probably bring it back up. But I've said this a couple of times, and I've thought about it a lot, and this is where it's come to, folks. Why? Because I've been asked many times, why Islam? Why are they protecting Islam? Why is it that the left is embracing and protecting Islam? And the simplest truth is, I personally believe that it is easier for them to run with the word Islam than it is to run with the word communism.
Okay.
We can't instill communism anymore because it's failed so many times, and the people don't want that no more. But we can shame them into accepting the poor Muslims and how it's a religion of peace, and let's gloss this all over, and they're working with that narrative to gain control of the people versus attempting to continue to push the socialist, communist words. The whole idea, the whole agenda is identical. Islam, communism, identical, just different words in play. So that's why I think that the left, because there is no other reason why the left would embrace Islam as hardcore as they do. I have no idea how or why, other than it's another avenue for them to gain control.
Right.
Money, power, and control. And as we talk about that,
I'm getting text by Laura right now.
Okay.
So we're going to have Laura Loomer on in a couple minutes here. She's been banned from the courthouse, and she said that the verdict on the trial is going to happen very, very, very soon.
Really? Because I looked that up during show prep this morning. I looked that up, and I was trying to find out.
She just said
there is none yet. Right.
They're expecting the verdict for Noor to be. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Noor. Noor.
Sure.
Be announced right around our interview time. So, okay.
Folks, stay tuned, and I'm sure CNN will post something up shortly. I'm sure they will.
Right. It's hopefully I'll just keep refreshing so we can, if something comes up, we'll let you know. So,
but so Laura Loomer is an independent journalist. She is watching this very closely. There's a reason for that too, folks. We have absolutely been inundated with this whole Muslim culture, and the numbers show it. The numbers show it that it happened during Obama's reign of terror, where. where more Muslims were brought into this country as supposed refugees than anywhere else from Mexico or from Canada. It was all coming from the Middle East. It's all this embrace Muslims, embrace refugees, and like I said, that's what I believe that the reason for that is to help them gain their power and control back under Islam versus under communism.
Yeah, that should be interesting to see what this verdict is going to be.
So real quick, I'll just kind of brief it, just kind of overview of what's going on. The Pulse nightclub shooting, we all know, went down in Orlando, Florida at a gay club. And the guy went in there and he shot the place up. He went nuts. He was able to do whatever he wanted. Unfettered freedom. to go ahead and shoot people up throughout the club, hunting people down, walking through the bathrooms. He was making phone calls during the time. He was texting his wife while he was doing the shooting, screaming, Allahu Akbar. Obviously, I mean, hello, we got this, if it looks like a Muslim, it probably is a Muslim. Then we find out, and this is, during this trial, if this trial goes to, if they do a mistrial, it will be because of the state. The government will have caused a mistrial. And why do I say that? Because the father of the shooter.
This is what we found out this week. Big news.
Father of the shooter, an FBI informant from 2005 to 2016. His son was, somebody dropped a dime on his son during 2012, 2013. FBI interviewed his son. They said, yep, he's lying to us. We got some problems with him. Well, lo and behold, his dad gets involved and case dropped. It's all good. Let him go back to living his life, kicking back, chilling. Father raised $100,000 and raised $50,000, and a week before, I'm not saying it's connected. I'm saying it needs to be investigated. The father took $100,000 to $150,000 and took it over to the Middle East 1 week before the Pulse nightclub shooting. Some of the reports that I read right after the shooting, during that point in time, the son and it came out in court that the son was having extramarital affairs on his wife. However, they believed that it was with men, and that cannot happen under Islam or Sharia law. You'll be thrown off the top of a building. And so I just put two and two together. The son was living this lifestyle that his father would not approve of, that his religion would not approve of. A lot of anger, a lot of angst. Went and ironically shot up a gay club.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
And he killed a lot of people, and it was a horrific thing. A lot of the eyewitnesses that were interviewed afterwards had some horrific details of what they went through. The way they were just kind of holed up, like in the bathroom, laying on the floor. Some of them were trying to play dead, and they were trying to be quiet.
And he would walk by the ones pretending to play dead, just shooting bodies.
Yeah. There was one that said that he was playing dead next to somebody that I don't remember whether he said he was alive or dead, but he shot a body right next to him and shot several other bodies, and just for whatever reason, just
didn't
notice
him.
the one to shoot. Yeah, and that's just super horrific. Let me give it a shot real quick here.
Okay, so we're in day. Earlier this week, Laura Loomer was there in the defense, listening to the defense give its case, watching the prosecution. She was in the courtroom listening. Day one, day two. She did a couple of scopes to where she was involved with some of the other media on the outside of the courtroom. When the media was talking to or answering Q&A, if you will, with some of the reporters. Q&A with some of the reporters. She was there with her scoping, there with her phone, there, answering questions or asking questions. And that may be some of the questions that she asked may have been the reason why they booted her. She was being too honest. And as we promised you guys, we have Laura Loomer. Laura, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, Smyth Radio. Thank you so much, Laura. I don't know if you remember this, but we originally met you in CPAC over a couple of years ago with the release of the CNN audio tapes.
Yeah, what was it? Yep.
With James O'Keefe.
Oh, can you hear us?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'm just going to up the throat infection.
Uh-oh. Sounds like we got a really bad connection. You there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better. That's much better.
So awesome.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, much better, much better. Okay, yeah, we just hooked her up, so it's kind of like try to get the audio together at the last second. So, welcome to the show, Laura Loomer. We haven't seen you since CPAC last year, not this past year, but the previous year. And she's been getting around. She's covered the Las Vegas shooting extensively. Not very many reporters were actually doing that. And now you're doing the Pulse nightclub shooting mother's trial. And can you tell us a little bit about that? And welcome to the show.
Thanks. Yeah. So, the country really got my own investigation, and it brought me to Orlando, Florida, to cover the North Solomon trial. And as you saw yesterday, I've been here all week. I had official media credentials. I was inside the closing arguments, listening, reporting all day. And then yesterday, when I showed up to the courthouse to continue reporting, hoping to hear a verdict, I was in the press room with all of the other reporters on my laptop and my phone. And then all of a sudden, very randomly, a U.S. Marshal comes into the press room and says, "You need to take all of your stuff and come with me right now." I get into the hallway, and then there's another U.S. Marshal and a couple people waiting for me. And they tell me that Judge Byron, the judge overseeing this case, has issued an official federal court order to ban me from the courthouse. And they said that I'm no longer allowed to cover the North Solomon trial. And they took away my press credentials.
I don't want to be skeptical about it. Is there any tie with this judge in Islam and the defendant? I mean, why would he do that?
Obama judge, Democrat.
Oh, he's an Obama-appointed judge?
Yes.
Well, then she's going to get off, either a mistrial or she'll get off.
You would think.
The came in. She.
Oh, we got a really, really bad connection. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Let me try to let me call you right back on Signal. Can I give that a shot, Laura?
Yeah.
Let me call you right back. Stand by.
Okay, so Laura is informing
I think
us
we get a better one on Signal.
that the judge has barred her from. Oh, nice.
Oh, let's see if it works. You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, that's much better. I
So
think.
you're telling us that the judge that has barred you from this, from reporting on this case as a journalist, as a reporter, is an Obama-appointed judge, a Democrat.
Correct, and I'm a conservative.
Right, and you're a conservative journalist, and we saw some of your scopes and how you put the questions to the family of the woman that's on trial, the wife that's on trial, putting questions to the family as to, jihad was brought up multiple times. What does that mean? You got into it with real questions. And do you think that may be the cause of this situation?
Yeah, because they're obviously in favor of family. And the way it's set up in the country, they're
Laura, is there a way that you might be able to move your physical location, like maybe around the room or something? It's really chopping up, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's a bad signal in that particular spot that you're in. I have a pretty good signal here. I'm not sure what's going on.
I don't know. I have.
Could you repeat that?
I have everything here.
Man, I thought that signal would help out a lot. Gosh, it's really, really choppy.
I'll just keep talking if you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess let's keep trying.
Okay, so obviously the first day that you were there, you put up on Twitter, you said the defense and the prosecution in the Norrie Solomon trial have made their cases. Prosecution presented facts and evidence. Defense made a broad accusation that Norrie isn't mentally competent and that the FBI interrogation of Norrie was fabricated.
Yeah, correct. And they completely started all of the
And then I saw that where you were scoping, you actually asked I guess it was the family members, a woman and two women next to each other, and they made the comment that she wanted to go home to do Easter eggs with her kids.
Yeah. And then logically, isn't North South? Why is she celebrating? I've never met them.
I've never met a Muslim either, ever, that celebrated Easter or Christmas or did Easter egg colorings. I know one of the guys said something about he popped off and said something to you. Oh, we do Santa Claus and we do our Muslim too.
Yeah, and look, obviously, Nakia, and they're not really being honest, right? This is the defense's way or appeal the moderate, as opposed to her husband murdered 49.
Correct. So on the second day that you were there, that you went back, you said, from my observation inside the media room at the Noor Salman trial today, the media is rooting for Noor. They want her to get off. The reporters were fawning over the defense. Local media was pissed when I asked Noor's family about her faith. Lots of dirty looks.
Correct.
I would think that would be a relevant question. So do you think that's – did they ever tell you why you were banned? I know that I was kind of looking at an interview that you did yesterday that you kind of indicated that you weren't sure and you were looking for an excuse. Did you ever get one?
No, I never given an answer. I was never given documentation. Nobody.
So you're still looking for answers.
Yeah, I still don't.
Wow, I wish we had a better connection. I'm really sorry about this. Laura, we're trying to – basically what's happening, I don't know if you could hear this. It sounds like you could hear us okay on your end. As soon as you start talking, like within a second or two, it starts really cutting the heck out of you. And
yeah, that just sounds like you speaker or isolated the because it's not on my end.
Yeah, I don't. It might be a bad connection with me.
Pull it out and stick it back in.
I don't know. I'll give it a shot. Hold on. Stand by real quick, Laura. I don't know if that does. All right, you there? So they didn't give you any excuse or any reason.
No, nobody any reason at all.
That's amazing. And as you're saying that as an Obama appointed judge, this is very disheartening that this I don't know if the judge could recuse himself on what grounds, but this obviously to me this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. You're the only one as a reporter bringing up jihad, Islam. I've read some of the articles that talk about her involvement with her husband. The night before the shooting, she was at Walmart when he was loading up the buckets of ammunition. And she said, I don't know. I don't even speak English.
Yeah, look, it's just such a false defense. I even brought the conference. How do you live in America your entire life? You're a United States citizen. You live in California. You don't speak English.
Right. You've lived here all your life. You've lived here your entire life, and you don't speak English, or you don't understand English words, or I'm not buying it. I lived in Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles for over a decade. And let me tell you, first generation, they let you know they're first generation, and they speak fluent English.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know if they're trying to say that that's the kind of inappropriate questioning that would require us to remove you from the courtroom or anything like that. But people need to realize that when it comes to freedom of press, I mean, no questions are barred. You should be able to ask any questions that you want of anybody. And if people don't like the tone in which you're asking your questions, I mean, look at the way that some of these these White House reporters ask our press secretary questions, and they're allowed to stay there. Could you imagine if CNN's reporters were treated that way at the White House press briefing room? It would be outrage.
Sorry to interrupt. Fox News and CNN now reporting widow walks.
Terror widow walks. Oh man.
Yep, not guilty.
Oh wow.
This is crazy. She was clearly in some of the things that I've read about, just some of the minor little details. And you even mentioned the fact that she was deleting her text messages, which, that could implicate her into whatever. What those text messages were that she deleted?
Look, it's a horrible trap.
Oh, are you there? I think we lost her completely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
you can
like,
hear me.
yeah, it sounds like you can hear us okay, but man, every time you start talking, it chops up really bad, and it cut you off completely that last time.
I'd hate to think that we're being doxxed right now.
Yeah, I know. I wonder if what's going on with our phone. Laura, you know what? Let's try this another time. I'm really, really happy that you agreed to come on. I really am so upset that our technology is just failing us miserably right now. And I tried a couple different things. I even tried to go Wi-Fi, and that didn't do anything.
Well, I'll play some of your clips that you posted up on Twitter. I'll play some of your videos of the things that you've done. We'll give a great explanation of what's going on.
Yeah,
we'll post up your Twitter handle for everyone to find you on Twitter and to follow you as well.
Yeah, and I know that you're probably. I would hope that you fight this legally. And
I am. I'm going to fight it.
Good, and whatever. They probably won't be able to hear you if you say it now, but we're going to find out. If you want to text to me a link to some sort of a GoFundMe, or I don't know what it is that you might be using as a funding for this, or if somebody's going to do a pro bono or whatever, just let us know. We're going to have to keep really close tabs on this because this is a major Second Amendment violation, and like I hear from earlier, a major. Oh, it says right here, PayPal.me.Laura Loomer, and also Patreon.com/Laura Loomer, LauraLoomer. And definitely check that out because this is really scary, this First Amendment violation. And I was like, yesterday I said, this sounds like a Fourth Amendment violation because instead of just saying, well, you're not allowed to record this, we're going to confiscate your camera or your phone, which I don't know. I probably would have said, you're going to have to pry it from me and you're going to have to arrest me. So, Fourth Amendment violation, First Amendment violation, and now this woman gets off. This sounds like a mistrial to me, but who knows? But I guess, Brian, anything else? I guess we're going to have to definitely do this again. There's so many more questions I want to ask, but you're getting chopped up so bad, Laura, that it's just not working right now.
And we'll go ahead and I also got some other clips and some things to talk about the March for Our Lives that Laura Loomer did. There's also some video clips that I'll play of that a little bit later on the show. But Laura, thank you so very, very much for everything that you do. Know that there's other folks out there that just absolutely love watching your scopes, love seeing the real news, the raw news on the streets. You're doing it. You're there. Absolutely. Just absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Laura. You got tons of support here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Laura. And get well soon. Hope you feel better. All right. Bye. Oh, it's so frustrating. I really wanted to hear so much more out of her. But I don't know what's going on with the connection here. I don't know if it was, I have this issue when I talk to Brian on the phone. That's why I thought Signal was going to fix it. I have to call Brian on Signal.
You guys didn't know that?
Well, because Brian and I have two different service carriers. So when I talk to my wife, fine, it's clear, everything's fine. When I talk to people on like Sprint, no problem. When Brian, there is a disconnect between Brian's service and my service that just does not allow us to talk on the phone. You
sure that's
inaudible?
You sure it's the service?
Well, as soon as I call you back on Signal, boom, it's fine. When I started hearing that first call with Laura, I thought, this is this is probably the same situation as I have with Brian. So Signal will fix it. And it didn't. Oh, so frustrating.
Should have probably used my phone.
Well,
I need an iPhone.
We've never had a problem with my phone before, but wow.
So this is so
frustrating.
This is a 2-minute clip of Laura Loomer at the trial, covering the trial. And folks, breaking news, if you haven't heard, the wife of the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting found not guilty of aiding and abetting her murderous husband and helping him to do what he did. This is Laura Loomer. Thank you.
You're full screen.
Just a quick question. Throughout the entire trial, the word jihad was used to describe acts of terrorism. As a Muslim, are you agreeing that the word jihad actually means an act of terror?
We're not making any more comments.
It isn't an inner struggle, or is it really an act of Islamic terrorism? Do you care to comment, sir? Is jihad an act of Islamic terrorism? Is it?
Why are you taking a picture?
All right. That is the family of Noor Solomon. All right, and I say that because throughout this entire trial today, the word jihad, right? Jihad was used to describe acts of Islamic terrorism. It was used by Noor Solomon's defense attorney, and it was used by the prosecution to describe the act of Islamic terrorism in the name of ISIS that was carried out by Omar Mateen. And so, look, you see that the Muslim family members of Noor Solomon were not willing to admit or answer the question, yes or no, whether jihad is an act of Islamic terrorism. And yet again, over and over again, you see activists from CARE, right, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and people like Linda Sarsour who call for jihad, and then they try to say that it means an internal struggle. So why, if jihad is an internal struggle, why was jihad used as the official term today during the entire closing argument session in court to describe an act of Islamic terrorism, specifically the act of Islamic terrorism in the name of ISIS carried out by Omar Mateen?
I think it's a legitimate question.
And clearly the family members couldn't answer the question.
100%.
So
That's not an attack on a religion or anything like that.
It wasn't really a gotcha question. It was a yes or no question. Is jihad an act of Islamic terror?
I'm totally in support of that. I know there's a lot of she stormed the stage in Manhattan, and that actually caused a big rift, like a fracture amongst the Trump support, because some of them were like, "Hey, that's great. We're finally fighting fire with fire and doing the things that the liberals have been doing that have been effective for them, and finally we're finally doing it, and in a way that's kind of defending conservatives, in this case a Republican president." And the other half were like, "Oh no, now we're resorting to liberal tactics."
Well, the thing is that they were showing the murder of Donald Trump.
Right, and so I actually was supporting her on that, and I know there's a lot of people and probably some fans of our show that are like on that side that disagreed with that tactic. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, freedom of speech. If you want to go and make now some people say we shouldn't do that. People pay to see that, and it annoys me when the Democrats do that. But you usher them out, and if they get ornery or break laws or get violent, then you arrest them and whatnot.
And she even said the cops were really, really nice. The cops actually supported what she was doing, and said, just, we got to do our job. And she was cool with them too as well. But when you show a play in the park, and in that play you have what is a representation of the murdering of a sitting president.
I think her action was appropriate for that, because it
drew attention to what was going on.
We know that the murder of McKinley, President McKinley back in the day, was blamed on William Randolph Hearst, who put out in all of his yellow journalist magazines across the nation that somebody should put a bullet in his head. And that pretty much led to what ended up being some crazy guy deciding that,
he told me, he asked me to do it, and I really love William Randolph Hearst.
I want to make a difference. Yeah. What do I do? Oh, it said in the paper, put a bullet in his head.
Change.
Change
has got to come.
So I think that was very appropriate. Now, as far as the questioning here, I was thinking that maybe she crossed a line for some people. But when I saw it right now on this video that you just saw yourself, that was a totally legit question. That's journalism right there. That's intelligent journalism.
So jihad. Jihad is described a couple different ways on the Google. Mm-hmm. Some refer to jihad as an internal struggle that you've got to struggle against, kind of like in Christianity. We always say fight the good fight, mm-hmm. meaning fight against the bad, meaning don't do it. You know, you got that internal struggle with wanting to do something wrong versus making sure you do something right. Kind of it, and that is what Islam is trying to tell us, that jihad is just a word for that internal struggle to be good. In all reality, it is not. Jihad in the Quran is referred to as the struggle against evil infidels, meaning you must realize inside yourself that you've got to kill the evil non-believers.
Yeah, and that we've talked about this for years, that the thing that makes Islam incompatible with the rest of civilized society is their need for the killing of anyone, an infidel, that does not convert. And I'm waiting for somebody to say, well, Carrie, what if I told you that that's not true? Then I would say, well, you know what? Maybe they are compatible. But that's the thing that makes them incompatible, is that they're now some don't do it. I mean, I know Muslims. I'm friends with a Muslim who he doesn't wear his religion on his sleeve. He just happens to be Muslim, and he's not. I'm pretty sure he hasn't killed anybody.
No.
And I don't think he has any plans to. But there's people out there that, you know, in the Middle East and whatnot, that decide that, yes, it is their requirement to kill somebody that does not convert to Islam, and that makes them incompatible.
Right.
Incompatible with the rest of – because I think it should be the right of somebody to say, no, I'm going to go ahead and not become a Muslim. I think that's your right, to not become a Muslim.
Well, if you do that and a good, faithful Muslim finds out, you are now an infidel.
Right, and by the Quran's requirements.
Same thing with gay people. Throw you off the top of a roof.
Right, and so there's definitely some legitimate concerns, and I think legitimate questions, and it sounds to me like Laura was asking legitimate questions. But as we saw in UK and as we see in Florida and a lot of places in California, the right to freedom of speech, the right to freedom of thought, more importantly, you can't even think certain things. And a perfect example is like discrimination. I'm very, very careful with discriminating, you know, based on gender, based on race, and all this kind of stuff. And so I do a good job with it myself. However, when you make discrimination illegal, you're actually banning a thought.
Yes.
It may be a stupid thought. The whole idea of freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of press, all this kind of stuff, is you're allowed to have really stupid thoughts and beliefs. You're allowed to. You're allowed to believe the stupidest stuff you could ever imagine.
Yeah, because fire doesn't melt steel.
So, yeah, you're allowed to believe all kinds of stupid stuff, and you should not be found guilty of any crime that involves really stupid beliefs. And when you start saying, well, you're not allowed to discriminate, I mean, that's a thought crime.
Yeah.
And so that's just one example, one of many, many examples. And so you have these places like UK where you're not allowed to teach a dog to do the Nazi salute.
The Nazi, because if you do that,
you go to jail.
You go to jail. So
this guy's going to jail. He's actually awaiting. He's been convicted. Now he's awaiting sentencing. It's Count Dankula. I don't know what his real name is, but
I thought that's what his real name.
Well, maybe. I don't know if he legally changed it or what.
Is that his handle on Twitter?
His handle on Twitter, I think, is Count Dankula TV, possibly.
Wow.
But he has this YouTube channel. And the story behind that, real quick, I'll give it to you real quick just in case you guys are like, what are you guys talking about?
It goes along with the story, yeah.
So the guy breaks up with his girlfriend, and he inherits her dog. And and apparently she has like this super, super hatred of Nazis, which a lot of people do. And that's fine. You're allowed to hate Nazis, whatever. Just don't falsely accuse people of being a Nazi.
Right.
But you're allowed to hate Nazis. So he decided he was going to get back at his girlfriend. I don't know if he inherited the dog or he just had possession of this dog. So he decided to get back at her. He was going to teach the dog to do the Nazi salute whenever he said, I think, Sieg Heil or something like that. So he says Sieg Heil, and then the dog will put its paw up. And then he videotaped this because he thought it was funny.
That is funny.
Right. And the joke of it that they don't get is that he knows how offensive doing the Nazi salute is. He agrees that it's offensive.
Right.
If he didn't think it was offensive, he would not have taught the dog that.
No.
So he's actually in belief that the Nazi salute is offensive, which is why he taught the dog. He wanted to insult.
He needs a better defense lawyer.
Well, he's in the UK, so he's going to jail, period.
Oh, right.
He's in the UK. Now, if he was in the United States, this would be totally unconstitutional. But you don't get the constitutional rights when you're outside the United States. So he's probably going to go to prison for – he doesn't believe in Nazis. He doesn't believe –
He doesn't even support them.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in National Socialism of 30s Germany. He does not believe in that.
Okay.
He doesn't support it. He probably hates it. He's probably totally against it. But he's going to go to jail for supporting it, even though he clearly didn't. So it's just a total misunderstanding on the part of the judge. So
wow.
So yeah, we have all kinds of violations of 3 amendments in this show. Big time violation of freedom of press. There's a lot of questions about that. So freedom of speech is freedom of speech, and
freedom of press seems to take more liberties.
Yeah, okay.
Than freedom of speech.
Let me tell you what I learned when I first got in this business. When I first got in this business, I thought that journalists have to get some sort of special license, and you have to jump through all kinds of special hoops. Like, for instance, we had a White House press briefing room journalist.
Yeah, we had White House credentials. Yeah,
yes.
You get in.
And we had a White House correspondent.
Yeah, apparently she got scared off. She got muscled out.
No, she had to. Well, I mean, she might have been worried about her job.
Yeah,
she might have been worried about her job
because you can't be conservative.
So she was a little concerned about that, and so. But here's the point: the reason we were able to get White House press credentials is because I was taught, and I don't know if I want to name his name because I didn't get. This is a private conversation I had with him, but I learned a lot from a journalist who told me that all you need to do is say that you want the credentials.
Can I get those?
Yeah, all you have to do is express your desire. And all you have to do is basically say, I have a blog. I write some stuff on a page on the internet on some website. And they'll say, oh, okay, so you are you're a journalist.
Right, and they'll do a background check. They'll check you out. Now, to get a hard pass, that's the pass where you don't need to be escorted, that you can come in on a regular basis and you don't have to wait for because when you go to security, if you've just got a press pass, security actually has to walk you and escort you.
Which totally makes sense.
And that's totally cool. But if you're a regular, you're checked out, you're from the New York Slime, and you just come and go as you please, you get a hard pass. Now, to get a hard pass, a little bit harder, but you stick to it and you do what you got to do and you can get it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised the kind of access you can get if you start a blog and you have the means to go around to these places like the White House. If you don't live in D.C., if you go to D.C., or if you live in D.C., you can go to these places as a journalist with not much. I mean, all you have to do is show that you're doing something to speak to the masses in some form or fashion, and that's it.
And throwing this out to anybody who's listening that lives in D.C. and has the ability to show up to the White House daily –
or at least 2 or 3 times a week, I think, right? Or does it need to be daily?
3 or more. You've got 3 or more
okay.
times a week.
All right.
Preferably 5. Any special
Send
case.
your resume to smithradio@gmail.com.
There you go.
And you might be our next White House press correspondent.
Yeah, you get a hold of Carrie at smithradio.com, or myself, Brian.
Yeah, so really the only requirements are you have to live in D.C. and you have to have the ability to show up to the White House, what do you say, at least 3 days a week?
Well, here's the thing. I can get your press pass and you can just go. But to get a hard pass, that's what you absolutely need to have.
The hard pass is critical.
Right, and you got to prove to them that you are there on a daily basis. And be cool. Be good to go. So we just talked with Laura Loomer. Had a bad connection there, but we'll get her back. We just talked with Laura Loomer, and we're talking about the Pulse nightclub shooter, his wife on trial. The trial just ended. Breaking news.
Can you tell us what did they have her on trial for? Okay. Helping him?
Aiding her husband and have some allowing this to happen and actually helping him being part of.
So this was
the jihad.
This was his wife?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought it was his mother. This is the wife of the actual shooter.
Right. And Laura Loomer talked to two ladies that were connected to the wife. I'm not sure their relationship, but they were in a press. They walked outside the courthouse, and the press ran in front of them and got in front of them and started asking them questions. And this is a clip of Laura asking some tough questions. And in the end, we find out some good information about how the trial is being handled.
Susan, if found not guilty, what are her plans? She will return to California to be with her son.
Okay, somebody asked, if found not guilty, what then? And the woman says, she'll go back to California with her son.
I was asking whether she was going to be home to color Easter eggs. I'm not sure whether that's quite possible. We can be hopeful about that.
Now, this is Laura Loomer's video. This is her video that she put together on her Twitter account.
And she just told us on the phone, or was that you that brought it up, that do Muslims celebrate Easter? I think that's an absolute legit question. If you're talking about celebrating Easter.
Well, if they do, these are their Easter eggs.
Okay.
Is she a Muslim and they celebrate Easter?
Well, it has glasses.
Thanks, you all.
One more question.
Yeah.
You said that North Solomon was not mentally capable of writing those confessions. Then are you saying that law enforcement helped her with her grammatics and punctuation and neat handwriting?
Okay, he's asking the question about the wife. He says, you're telling me the wife is not competent to spell, to write, or to comprehend anything going on, and you're telling me that this confession of hers is not hers.
That was not her handwriting. Those statements are all in the FBI agent's handwriting,
which
as
is actually
by
common. That's actually common. I've gone to the police station to put out a report. Almost always it's written by a cop because it'll be submitted in court, and there has to be certain details that are critical to the cops. So, for instance, I had the cops over to investigate a break-in and a bunch of property stolen from me, and he had this big old pad, and he wrote everything in it on it was like, I guess, affidavit or whatever. It was like this official paper that they're going to use, and he wrote it all. He didn't hand it to me and say, Carrie, can you describe on here on the paper what happened? No, he asks me, and he writes it in a way that will be understood by other officers, by a judge and whatnot. All this will be submitted if they ever find the perpetrator. So I don't find it odd at all that this was not in her handwriting, that it was written by an FBI agent. I think that's common.
Well, now that you bring that up, I had a situation out in Los Angeles where someone had pulled a gun out on me on the freeway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so that's just to let you know, out in L.A., don't pull a gun on someone in the freeway, because they can slow down and got your license plate. And they can trail you until the cops show up. So I went down to the police station, and he asked me all kinds of questions. They found the gun, asked me all kinds of questions about what happened, everything that went down. Can you identify? I said, yep, I can point him out in the lineup.
Brian, he has the right to bear arms.
Oh, he bared it all
But you're not allowed to brandish.
You're not allowed to brandish.
Yeah.
Right. So apparently the cop wrote all this stuff down. I didn't write nothing. Mm-hmm. I just signed at the end.
I think it's always written by them. So the fact that it was written by this FBI agent, I don't think is odd at all. In fact, I would find it odd if she actually wrote herself. But anyway.
Right. So the gentleman to the left in blue is part of the family of the wife. I don't know if that's the dad or the uncle, but he's part of the family of the wife.
That was the one that said, "What are you taking pictures of me for?" to Laura Loomer on the previous clip.
Right.
Those are not in her handwriting.
Not her words either, because she can't pronounce even those words correctly.
Okay, not her words either. She can't pronounce the words.
Cannot pronounce the words.
Cannot pronounce words.
Okay.
She's having trouble pronouncing words too.
Oh, she's a United States citizen. She's lived in California. Doesn't she speak English?
Yeah,
So if she's lived here her whole life, how does she not have fluency and proper grammar? How are you guys going to use the low IQ defense?
there are a lot of people who are born and raised in the United States who don't read and write English very well. So she just happens to be one of them. We've always said that she was a simple person. She's had 2 jobs in, what is she, 31? One is a cashier in Kmart where she was not successful, and one worked
she got fired.
Daycare.
Okay, daycare and fired from Kmart as a cashier. She's simple. Would you consider a college degree someone that is simple?
She has a college degree?
Yet it's a 2-year degree, but nonetheless, higher learned individual.
You would.
She's got more paperwork than I do.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Taking care of children, which is what she's good at.
And then you said that her son wants to color Easter eggs. Well, isn't Noor Salman Muslim? Why is she celebrating Easter?
We believe in all religion.
She is Muslim.
The one lady said, "We believe in all religion." She said, "We believe in all religion."
So they're celebrating Easter because they celebrate all religion,
Right, and they will celebrate Ramadan because they believe in Islam, and they will celebrate Festivus for the rest of us.
Ethnically, by birth from her parents, but she was born in California. And look, I color Easter eggs. I've always colored Easter eggs when I was a child. She's got a 5-year-old child.
But are you Muslim? Are you Muslim?
Her son said he wants her home to color Easter eggs.
I know, but the question is, are you Muslim? You said you color Easter eggs, but do most Muslims color Easter eggs?
I'm a Muslim, and my kids, they color Easter eggs.
All right.
Okay?
She didn't like that.
No, she didn't like
Well,
none.
I mean, if you're going to talk about celebrating a Christian holiday and you're Muslim, you're going to get questions like that.
You're going to get somebody's going to
I'm going to tell you right now, I've had Jewish friends. They really don't celebrate Christmas. They really don't.
No, yes.
Don't think that, sure, they don't believe in Jesus Christ and his birth and Christmas and all that, but surely they put a Christmas tree up and put presents under it and do all the things that we do because we do it and, they don't want to miss out. No, they really don't. They really, really don't. They put up a menorah and celebrate all that, but they're not celebrating Christmas. So for a Muslim to sit there and say, well, we color Easter eggs because everybody colors Easter eggs, it's like, I find that a little bit, I don't know.
Now,
maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, and if we are wrong and they do color Easter eggs, say we are, that is a very odd thing to throw out. It almost looks like you're playing with our emotions about Jesus and Easter, and it seems like you want sympathy for her. And what, lo and behold, she's cleared on Friday of all charges. She's innocent. And
it's a Good Friday.
Carrie, it's a good Friday. Color Easter eggs. Hails bells.
Oh my gosh, we got a new definition of Good Friday for non-Christians out there.
And the judge, an Obama appointee, Democrat, kicking conservative journalist Laura Loomer out of the courthouse, being escorted out by, what did she say? By
Marshall.
Marshall. What the hell? What's going on? This is bad news, folks. So, and real quick, just to recap it all, the father of the shooter worked as an informant for the FBI 2005 to 2016, and was right after the Pulse nightclub shooting, was seen being part of Hillary Clinton's campaign. He was the guy that was in the background in her speech when she was in Florida.
Gosh.
And they say that it had nothing. It was no coincidence, no nothing. But this was the informant under James Comey, under Mueller, under McCabe. This is the informant. The father of the shooter, Comey, McCabe. What are we doing here in the FBI?
This is problematic.
And now shows up with Hillary Clinton, and we know McCabe and Comey were with Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, somebody pointed out, look, I'm sorry, if you're a conspiracy theorist,
I'm becoming one.
I'm just telling you right now, you're on to something. You're on to something. Somebody pointed out, why is it that every single mass shooting has some connection to the FBI? And they do, big time. There's all the mass shootings are connected to the FBI somehow. That's going to be.
You're like, what about Vegas?
That's like throwing C4 into a fire.
Right.
You know, they say, "Oh, that's pouring gasoline on the fire," or "That's fueling the fire." You're throwing C4 on the fire of conspiracy. Yeah, conspiracies.
So what about Vegas? Oh, that's Andrew McCabe's brother-in-law.
Yeah,
in the FBI out there in Vegas.
I'm so sad. If we had Laura Loomer on for as long as she was able to be on, I would have started asking her, praising her for what she was doing in Las Vegas and all this kind of stuff. Because one thing I wanted to say too about her is a long time ago, Tim Pool, who before anybody knew who he was talking about what he does, which is he's on the ground collecting information for his journalist practices. He was actually doing real journalism on
with
the
a
ground.
bulletproof vest on that said press.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. So Brian thought it was cool too. He's like, I'm going to get one of those. Shell out $400.
I saw them on Amazon. They ain't cheap.
Yeah, well, it's a bulletproof vest. What are you going to do? Yeah. So he said you would be shocked at how few people there are in the entire country and in the entire world for that matter who do what I do. You would be shocked. And based on what I've seen for the past year and a half or so, this is what Laura Loomer does. So really, Tim Pool and Laura Loomer are doing that thing that very few people do, which is being on the ground, asking questions directly to eyewitnesses. I did it when I was in Las Vegas. I talked to the so I do it on a limited basis. If I had the kind of just income coming in from a Patreon or whatnot, that like Tim Pool is able to do this because he has a very large Patreon base. So he can do this on a daily basis and then provide, food for himself. I don't know how easy it would be for him if he had like a wife and 4 children or something like that. That would make it
tough.
Yeah, because then he'd be like away from the family all the time, and also he'd have to provide for them. Like right now, he lives in probably a studio apartment, only feeding one mouth, his own,
right.
And he's able to have that kind of freedom. So that really helps. But Laura Loomer is doing what Tim Pool does.
Yeah, and it would have been completely different with us before if I was single too. But when you got a wife, 3 kids, and you got a house payment and car payment, I mean, it's not possible.
Right.
So we'll get out.
It's very difficult. Very difficult.
So that's why you'll see us maybe once a year getting out there. We'll get out there to D.C., get out there to Georgia. And there's
in my case, Las Vegas.
And there's a meeting coming up in
September, I think.
September, possibly. So we're saving for that and really putting things together to try and make that happen as well. But again,
that's in D.C. also.
If you look at the screen right there, Smyth Radio, patreon.com/Smyth Radio. You can be part of the group, our private message meetup group. You can join that. Go to patreon.com/Smyth Radio. And if you want to know more about Islam, there's a guy that is phenomenal, studied all his life about Islam. He's a Christian out of Egypt. His name's Usama Dakdow. And there's a video on smithradio.com. YouTube video of his right down there. Just scroll down a little bit. There's some videos down there. And he'll give you some really great information on Islam if that's your thing. But just to kind of wrap this up, Huffington Post did a article on Laura Loomer.
Oh, okay. What'd they say?
Laura Loomer made the comment. You heard the Easter egg comment that she made. Easter egg.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you.
How's
that was
not
quick
a good
thinking. That was quick thinking.
A good follow-up.
I don't know if I would have picked up on that really quick the way she did. I wasn't raised my whole life a Christian.
Right.
So to me, for 25 years, Easter was a day where a bunny delivers a basket full of chocolate. That was Easter for me. And so but for somebody that's a little bit more in tune to their Christianity, you hear Easter and it's not bunny rabbits and chocolate and eggs and whatever. It's the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And when you hear that a Muslim is making Easter eggs, it's kind of like, whoa, we're talking about Easter here? Hold on a second. So I thought that was really quick thinking on her part, and I thought it was a very legit question.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an attack on religion, but that seems like an inconsistency to me.
Right.
That should be questioned.
Right. So the Huffington Post writes, Laura Loomer heckled relatives of the shooters.
Hectored?
Hectored.
No, hectored.
Hectored.
Yeah, hectored.
Is
that the word she used?
Where is Hector?
Well,
I thought it was heckled.
Well, heckled would be what you would do to like a stand-up comedian at their show.
Okay.
Hectored would be like what you do to somebody one-on-one, I guess.
See, there you go. You get an English lesson, too, all wrapped up.
I just made that up.
So Smyth Radio, making it happen. Trying to read Huffington Post. The relatives of the shooter's wife, who's on trial on charges of aiding the mass shooting, the court called her behavior highly inappropriate. So
why? Why was it inappropriate?
Okay, I'm getting some inside information from. I'm reading this for the second time. Huffington Post. The court called her behavior highly inappropriate. So I guess the judge found out that Laura Loomer was asking questions. Maybe the defense or the defense approached the judge and said, "Hey, Your Honor, we've got a reporter out here that has hectored our client, or not our client, but the client's family. Can you please?"
Why did they just blindly believe them?
Yeah, I don't. It's beyond me. Okay, so activist Laura Loomer harassed relatives of the shooter's widow with questions about jihad and Easter eggs.
They called her a far-right activist. Far-right, I mean,
how far right do you want to go?
I mean, she's not your mainstream fake news media journalist.
She's probably one of the hardest working that we know of. The entire time that we spent with her, she spent the entire time feverishly working.
You're talking about Cassandra Fairbanks. She was. Oh, yeah, Cassandra was the one that was. Oh, she's hardworking too. But yeah, Cassandra does more writing than actual investigative journalism.
Oh no, she went under. Laura Loomer was undercover with James O'Keefe.
Yeah, but at the time she was just like his right hand
woman
girl. Yeah, so
woman.
She was like doing all the background work with James O'Keefe for Project Veritas.
Still hardest working.
Oh, she was working hard for sure, definitely. She was the one that helped hook me up with some,
sweet
whatever.
So Huffington article: how Noor Salman became the scapegoat of the Pulse massacre. Prosecutors say she helped her husband's terror attack. Her supporters say she's innocent, and the case is rooted in gender Islamophobia.
Gender?
Islamophobia.
Why'd they put gender in there? Because
Islamophobia.
You know what that is? When they say, because I'm thinking, if you want to call it Islamophobic, let's have that discussion. You throw gender in there, and I'm like, okay, you're just like, throw all the spaghetti on the wall and let's see what sticks.
Right.
If you're not a fan of falsely accusing somebody of Islamophobia, maybe you're a fan of calling somebody a sexist.
Yeah, maybe you're down with both of them. Maybe we could hit you with two.
Gendered Islamophobia. I mean, she is a female, and the person she's questioning is a female.
Okay,
so
I even mispronounced that. They have gendered.
Yeah, I just now read that.
Gendered Islamophobia.
Right.
So the Islamophobia has been genderized.
That's exactly right. No, this is not a joke, people. That is exactly what they did. They genderized Islamophobia because it's not enough to be Islamophobic.
You got to genderize it.
Yeah.
Put it in the blender and hit genderize.
Oh, God. That sounds painful. That sounds really painful.
As painful as reading the Huffington Post.
Oh, man. There's neutered and then there's genderized.
No, you did.
Oh, that's even worse. Oh, my God.
Good time. So
they call it I've heard of a gender bender. Now we got a gender blender.
Gender blender. There you go, baby. You heard it here first on Smyth Radio.
Wow. Oh, my gosh.
Hey, folks, if this is the first time you've been listening to the show, this is Smyth Radio, Military Veteran Talk Radio. We go live normally every Sunday evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. I will probably replay the show.
I think we're going to talk about that
Eastern.
after the show. Definitely replay on Sunday because people expect us there. This is kind of a new thing in the morning.
Yeah, this is one of those whimsical things. You just kind of, and we broke news with the wife of the Orlando shooter.
Timing is everything, right?
Yeah, she set free as a jaybird, and. And, Islam is the religion of peace, or like I like to say, peace is, because you will.
That's what you end up with.
Peace is. And this is just, it doesn't take much on YouTube to find articles and bits and pieces. But if you're watching, this is a video of Christians. You know how sometimes at the Indy 500 where Christians will hold signs, repent now, Jesus is coming.
Yes, we see that in the Midwest.
Or they have T-shirts on that say, Jesus is Lord, Jesus is risen. So,
sometimes they're a little more like you're going to hell, which I saw HE on there. I'm sure that hell. Yep, there it is, hell.
Hell.
So, sometimes they go extreme with it, and
he's quoting a Psalms 9:17 something about hell. So anyway, they are walking through they're at a festival. Apparently, they're at a festival.
Man, they're getting stuff thrown at them.
It rocks, and people are hitting them with sticks and bottles, and they're making this god-awful horn noise to run them out. Yeah, they're getting hit. I mean, they're getting pelted really good. Really, really good. And this, if you didn't know, this is perpetrated by Muslims, Islam. And you're like, Brian, come on, man. That's in the Middle East somewhere.
Now, I will tell you that they... Oh, okay, so what I will tell you based on what I've seen... didn't we talk to... we did a scope at the Indy 500 last year, and we talked to one of the guys.
Yeah.
But they will tell you, if you're doing something that they feel is against Bible or whatever, they will tell you right to your face, yes, you're going to hell. And they'll say that right to your face. And in the case of a Muslim walking up to them and saying, well, I don't follow the Bible, I follow the Quran, and that's what I'm a Muslim, they would not hesitate for a second to tell you that, yeah, you're going to hell. And the thing is they're allowed to say that. There's freedom of speech that protects them from being able to say that. And there's nothing that's going to hurt you physically when a Christian tells you that you're going to go to hell. But the Muslims and Democrats in general, atheism is really strange. They really, really get hurt physically.
Violently
assaulted in their brain when you tell an atheist he's going to go to hell.
Right.
And so they feel that it's necessary to defend themselves by retaliating physically, by throwing bottles and all that kind of stuff. But what we know, this is all
that's where you
get
that's where you get the violence with the Antifa.
Right. They're like, Nazis are hurting us. We need to break everything. And
you should be allowed to punch a Nazi in the face.
Yes.
Should be legal.
Right. So that's what you're seeing here. These people, let me tell you something about these Christians. They're extremely offensive. They're not the same ones, but it's kind of along the same lines as the ones that protest the funerals of the fallen soldiers.
Oh, that's so wretched.
What is it? The Westboro Baptist Church.
They were here on the west side of Cincinnati. Did you know that? They were here at Oak Hills High School.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. They were telling gays and lesbians that they're going to hell.
Oh.
And I wish I'd have known that, because I would have taken to the streets and I would have videotaped it. It was it's truly upsetting that people would do stuff like that. Christians should not judge, lest ye be judged. And Carrie, did you know it's free to punch somebody in the throat? I like free things.
I did not know that.
No violence here, folks. But here's the pastor. He finds a cop, the local cop, and has a little talk with him.
The reason why this is going on now is because of what happened last year.
When he said what happened last year, he's talking about San Bernardino and the Pulse nightclub.
Okay.
Here is you allowed it to escalate into this. And so, but you guys just lost a lawsuit on free speech and you want to do it again.
Okay. Why don't you get us the bullpen that we asked for in the email?
Okay, well, that's a free speech zone, and the Chamber of Commerce decided that they did not want a free speech zone.
Okay, they asked for a free speech zone.
Which, by the way, the free speech zone is the United States.
Right, and they were looking for a protected section.
Okay.
Which is not uncommon, but the Chamber of Commerce said, yeah, there's no free speech zone here. Sorry.
Here to protect our rights.
I'm here to protect everybody.
And keep safety. Get us a bullpen.
And where were you when the bottles were flying? And
you're grabbing people.
Well, no, there's officers that actually turned the other way.
And that's not the first time that's been
common.
Reported.
Yeah, that's common. That the first time I heard about it, which I'm sure it's happened long before this, but the first time I heard about it was the San Jose riots.
Yes.
They have a couple of uniforms.
I don't have a couple of uniforms. There's 100,000 people who come to this festival, and I got about 25 to 30 officers.
It's just two officers. If you think it's a threat, so you're going to jeopardize free speech. You want to stop.
I'm not trying to jeopardize free speech.
Again, I just want to make it happen. Yes. So if we don't leave, you're saying we will.
If you don't leave, we're going to cite you for disorder. You're creating a disturbance in the festival.
So you're
looking at people here. Look at
creating a disturbance.
He says, "Look at how you're dressed."
Oh my God, this guy is horrible. We have law officers. This guy is employed by the government.
Yes, and paid for by the people.
Supposed to be protecting people and their rights, and he's saying that you should not have the right to do something that looks pretty peaceful to me. Right. Holding up a sign and saying what you want to say should be something that's celebrated in the United States, even if what is being said and what is written on the signs is highly, highly, highly offensive. The fact that they were able to do it quietly and without getting in people's faces like you see Antifa do is it should be celebrated. And they're saying that, well, it's okay that these guys were physically assaulting you because you asked for it. So for all you women out there, if you go out and are dressed in any other way than completely covered up, maybe even in a hijab or whatever, completely covered up, and you're raped, well, the cop can say, if he wants to be consistent, that, well, these people are okay. I know I saw them rape you. I actually saw them with my own eyes, them raping you in front of me. But I also see the way you're dressed, and I'm going to go ahead and cite you for being here dressed that way.
Yeah, your skirt's too high. You got high heels on. You're just asking for
or your dress is open at the bottom, even though it goes down to your ankles. I mean, whatever. You can make anything up.
Right.
Or your
too form-fitting.
Yeah, a little bit too form-fitting. Your sundress accentuates your body.
This is not Christians. Christians do not do this. You don't find Christians do. This is the religion of peace right here, folks. And if you're watching the video right now, you're watching Dennis Michael Lynch, who what had a show, was a reporter, but apparently claimed that they wanted him to say stuff he didn't want to say. He wanted to be an independent reporter, so he's independent now.
Okay.
And he is in the same city as that violent protest, and they're going around the city, and they're showing all the different women walking up and down the streets.
Could you imagine
hijabs,
being so
hijabs.
offended by the hijab that you throw a bottle at them or you punch them in the face?
I
don't like the way you're dressed. I don't like what you represent.
I feel that, but I wouldn't do it. I get triggered by the hijab, folks. I don't like that. I don't like how they're allowed to cover their entire body from head to toe. You don't know what's under there. You don't know who they are. It could be a man. It could be something.
Oh, and just to be clear, Brian is not going to punch them.
In the throat. I wouldn't do that. No.
Well, he's not going to throw a bottle at them. He's not going to assault them. Even though he said he feels the need to, he's not going to.
No. But you see this whole video. It's gone around 10 million views on this video from Dennis Michael Lynch. He's in this city, and he's exposing Islam and that 50% of the refugees that Obama brought over all make under $30-some thousand a year, which are, they say 50% of them are on welfare. What sorts? Brand new cars, nice houses, expensive items and things like that. So they're going around talking about this. This is not the Middle East, folks. This is Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah, there's something going on with the upper part of the Northwest Territory. The whole, the Mall of America, Minnesota, Michigan, that whole area up there, maybe even in some cases Wisconsin. That northern area, I don't know why that seems to be the location of choice, but there's a large growing Islamic population. And I don't mean Islamic as in, these are American people who just decided to convert to Islam or whatever. No, these are transplants from the Middle East.
Right. So check this out. This is the end of the video. If you're watching the clip, they're in a car and they're driving around this town in Dearborn, Michigan, and he's pointing out these McMansions just out of nowhere.
Okay.
And then they come across. He complains that there's no American flags. Now you might think, oh, gee whiz, that's kind of weird, huh? Well, when I lived in Southern California, it was unsettling and quite disturbing. There are no American flags in Southern California.
Because it triggers people.
Yes.
But
you've got the Mexican flag flying. You've got all different kinds of flags flying from all countries. You do not fly the American flag. You just don't do it.
It's mainly probably because you get your house vandaled.
Very well could be. So they come upon this, and listen to what he has to say about this house.
All right. So what do you think the deal with that is?
The flag?
Yeah.
Okay, they're coming up upon a nice, clean, well manicured house.
Yeah, it looks like the landscape is well taken care of, and there's a flagpole with a nice size American flag on it.
Nice size American flag, and the flagpole has like a flower bed around it. Yeah. It's really well set off.
They've been here a long time. That's a statement too.
That flag's making a statement. Yeah. What is the statement?
That that's an American.
Yeah. This is America.
It's actually a larger flag than you would find in a normal home. That's for sure. But so he's just making a statement. But
Dearborn, Michigan, folks.
Yeah. We did door to door. By the way, I highly recommend it. I'm pretty much ordering you to do it.
Yeah.
I'm ordering you to do it. Please, if you want to be our fan, you got to do something when it comes to election time. Do some door-to-door. Do some phone banking. Put together yard signs. Agree to go and deliver yard signs to the yards that ask for them or whatever. Do something. But we went door-to-door knocking, and we went to a neighborhood that I thought was going to be a disaster. I really thought that this was going to be massive numbers of Hillary supporters. And what you find out is that at least half of them were Trump supporters, very quietly in some cases. Some of them were very outspoken. And then I come to a house with a big old flagpole, big old American flag, and he had Trump banners. It looked, and I'm trying to remember where they came from. I feel like they were the bags that you put over the wire for the yard sign.
Oh, okay.
But he had just the bag part of it, the plastic sign without the wire, and he had them, like 20 of them, lined up on his fence line. Like,
so taped to the fence.
Something like that, or wired to the fence or whatever, all the way across this whole fence line. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to knock on this guy's door.
I wonder who he supports.
I don't even think I got to his door. He like came out and saw me coming. I was like, so you supporting Trump this year?
Want a beer? Come on in.
So, but he was right in the middle of the whole thing, the whole area that we were knocking on doors. And I told him that I was kind of surprised at the support. And he was like, yeah, it's not as bad as you think. And so, yeah, it's amazing. I'm telling you right now, when I go to an area where I suspect you're going to have a massive amount of Democrat support, and it was more than half Trump support,
right.
These polls are wrong. They're lying. The election results were wrong. I really, truly believe that.
And not only that, but they're saying that Trump garners almost 50% support from the public. Can you imagine what it would be? Two factors. One, they actually polled correctly. And two, the news wasn't 96% negative towards Trump.
Right. If it was, let's just say it was fair.
Say it was 50-50.
I don't want to say use the word fair and balanced, kind of trademark from Fox News, and kind of triggers a lot of people. But I'm just saying, like, just give us the facts, like the old school journalism from back in the day that was really boring, that nobody cared to watch unless you were really old and you were really into learning about what's going on around your neighborhood and whatever. But just real dry facts, and just leave it up to the viewer to decide what they want to believe. I mean, you have that kind of journalism. And you get actual real polling, which I think somebody actually attempted it. They did like polling from every single state. And they found
showed that.
Yeah, we talked about it several times during the election cycle. And it seemed like overall there was a 2-to-1 margin of support for Trump overall, everywhere you look.
Yeah.
2-to-1. It was like 66% to 33% in support of Trump.
But that's not how they but the way that votes turn out, doesn't kind of correlate that.
Yeah, so it was like if you have a state that's largely blue, they weren't really representing the blue as well in those states. But same thing with the Republican, the red states, they were kind of giving it 50-50 when we know that this particular state has a lot more Republican voters.
Texas is going to Hillary.
It's going blue.
It's going blue.
The blue wave. No, I was like, you guys aren't even credible reporting that stuff. Like Trump has always said, I think this is a really brilliant statement that the news is not to report what happened. It's to influence your opinion. It's so that's what you're getting in reporting. So when they say Texas is going blue, or there's evidence that Texas might go blue or whatever, they're not telling you a fact that they know. They're trying to influence the way you feel and what you believe based on their reporting. So if they tell you it's going to go blue, it's kind of like that secret. It's like the secret,
if you think it, you believe it, you say it, you internalize it, it's got to be true.
Right, and there's a lot to the self-fulfilling prophecy. There's a lot to that. That's an actual thing. That's not just a something that you could report like, the reason this guy lost is because he was in the locker room saying we're going to lose. That's actually a scientifically verifiable phenomenon.
That's why they pay Anthony Robbins. I think he said one of the football teams paid him like $1 million to come to their team at halftime during the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Turn it around.
Anthony Robbins.
Turn it around. Get your mind right.
I was wondering why they extended the halftime. I guess they had to walk over coals, right?
Yeah, had to walk over some coals.
Did you hear about the lawsuit of a whole bunch of people got third-degree burns?
No.
Oh, you didn't hear about that? You have to Google that.
Who got burned?
So apparently,
if you don't move fast enough.
Okay, so you're saying the right way to do it. There's a lot to walking through coals.
Yeah, it's a technique.
It's a technique.
Yeah.
but also the preparation of the coals has to be done right. Apparently, there was something wrong with the way the coals were done.
Yeah, they were using magnesium.
I would not. They were using molten lava or something like that. I don't know. So apparently, you can't just walk through molten lava. That would not be good.
No.
So, but because of the problems that they had, it allowed for the heat to conduct into the foot or the feet of the people walking through, caused massive third-degree burns on a lot of people, and it was just a one-off. It happened. It's
always
one
a
time.
one-off.
Yeah, it was a one-off. So might have been some lawsuits. I'm not sure, but
anywho, getting your mind right. Let's get our mind right on.
It was whatever the losing NFL team was last. They came out of the locker room like all kinds of third-degrry burns.
Their feet had blisters and they couldn't run.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible. It was a disaster.
Oh, was this New? Was it the Patriots this past year?
It could have been that number 1 team in the NCAA basketball tournament that ended up losing to a number 16.
What was the name of that team, 16?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
They lost their next game.
Of course they did. Of course.
Because
they got inflated. They got their head blown up.
It was Virginia that lost, though, and they were the ones that walked over the coals.
Right.
Anyway.
So for all y'all and Jeff Sessions, all y'all, and my man.
Yeah.
My main man, Jeff Sessions. Let me give you a renewed faith. And what in the hell Jeff Sessions been doing the past year and a half?
There's people that are saying fire him, whatever. He needs to be fired. We were told that he's doing good work behind the scenes.
And I was always led to believe that that's how he operates behind the scenes. And when he gets the evidence and it's shut case, airtight shut case, he brings it forward.
Which is probably the professional way to do it.
Right.
But in the land of, armchair prosecutors like us, we were like, hey, I need to see some goals here.
I need something, man.
It's like that team that only wins in a comeback. They got to do a comeback.
Oh, wasn't it? Oh, no.
Muhammad Ali does the rope-a-dope.
Right, the rope-a-dope.
So Muhammad Ali actually developed the technique where you allow the crap to get kicked out of you for multiple rounds in an attempt to wear the arms out of your – like literally. This is not a joke. Like you're literally wearing the arms out by encouraging them to beat the hell out of you for a whole bunch of rounds. And then – when you finally determine that this person's arms are destroyed.
They wore out.
And also their spirit. He actually talked about how as George Foreman, he developed this to defeat. This was his strategy to defeat the undefeated George Foreman, who everybody thought was totally invincible. He was the Mike Tyson of his day at the time.
Absolutely. And if Muhammad Ali didn't come at George Foreman the way he did, he absolutely would have lost.
Yeah, George Foreman could have knocked him out in the first round. His big thing was being able to knock people out in the first round or the first couple of rounds. In fact, he didn't have very many bouts at all that went beyond a couple of rounds.
So if I could get him to go 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds, and he's a hefty guy.
Big boy.
I might wear him out.
Well, it turns out he also employed psychological warfare. So every time George Foreman would punch him, and Ali actually admit that he was rocked and really hurt by a lot of these punches. But every time he got punched, he would look right at George and say, "Is that all you got?" And George, in an interview many years later, said that every time Ali said that, he actually felt like he just didn't have the power to beat him.
Man.
Yeah, and so that was the trick.
I was telling my daughters that the other day. I said, the soccer game that they played, I said, it's because you all played like you wanted to win.
You know what your daughter told me? They were down like 4-0 or 5-1 or something like that.
Brutal. It's brutal.
And then his daughter ended up scoring all the goals to come back and win the game. And she comes out, and she's very young, so everything she says is super cute. And she's like, I almost thought we weren't going to win. And that was the moment that she decided, oh, I got to start scoring goals. And so that's the attitude you have to have. Like, oh, well, we're not going to lose.
Yeah.
We know we're not going to lose. This is definitely a game we're going to win. And for her to say, I almost thought we were going to lose, meant, oh, I got to start actually performing here, and she did.
Well, and so I started talking to her about that because it was common sense to me. I didn't realize I didn't teach them this. In their most recent game last week, that daughter got hurt, got limp because there was a ruffian on the other team, roughing the girls up, throwing them around.
If you're the parents of that daughter, shame on you.
Oh, my goodness. Folks, they were having her. It was like it was a hockey match.
Well, what the way you described it, and of course you're biased because you're the dad.
Well, when you got kids bleeding on the field.
Right. Being carried, looking like Scott Sterling.
Whoa.
Do you know Scott Sterling?
No.
He's the one from that fake video where he keeps getting hit with the soccer ball. Do you remember that one? Oh, my gosh. I'm going to have to look it up, and you're going to have to play it for everybody. So one of the greatest fake videos that are made to kind of look real at first, but he ended up anyway. So in your biased opinion, the way your story was to me, it sounded to me like they knew that your daughter was going to be a problem for them.
Yeah, they'd take her out.
And so they ordered
the hit.
Conspiracy.
There was a hit.
They basically told all the kids, you got to take her out.
See, there's candy, cookies, and money.
Sweep the leg.
Sweep the leg.
Sweep the leg.
And that's what they did. They swept the leg.
But I'll get disqualified.
No.
Do it.
Do it.
Yeah, so that was a little...
So we're talking about Jeff Sessions.
Little Cobra Kai reference for
right,
it.
we're talking about Jeff Sessions, and we're trying to help y'all get your mind right.
Yeah, so he's doing the rope-a-dope.
Yeah.
He's ordering the hit. There's going to be blood everywhere.
So Attorney General Jeff Sessions revealed Thursday, which was yesterday. Folks, if you're watching this show on Sunday, yes, we did pre-record. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, you're watching this show on Sunday.
Sunday.
If you're watching
Sunday.
this show on Sunday. Wow, what a great Easter. What did you do for Easter?
Oh, I'm so stuffed. I ate too much on Easter after
Too many
church.
Too many eggs. And that basket I got from the Easter Bunny was exquisite.
Yeah.
So much chocolate, like the Cadbury eggs. I just had one a second ago.
So yesterday, not Easter Day, a federal prosecutor was elevating certain issues involving the FBI, the Clinton Foundation, and Uranium One, but said he would not appoint a second special counsel at this point. Okay, so technically, Jeff Sessions has not on paper appointed a full-blown second special investigation. In a letter directed to Senate Judiciary Chuck Grassley, House Judiciary Bob Goodlatte, and House Oversight Committee Trey Gowdy, Sessions revealed that he asked U.S. Attorney John Huber to lead the evaluation into issues raised by the committees in recent months. Now, this is the guy that that nobody had known about. Nobody has known for the last 14 months that U.S. Attorney John Huber was tapped by Jeff Sessions for the last year and a half to look at Clinton's Uranium One and FBI and come back to me and let me know if there is something that we need to investigate. So kind of like a preliminary investigation. And this on Fox News by Bret Bair, special report.
This is a Fox News alert. The Attorney General says there will be no second special counsel for now. Jeff Sessions is rejecting a Republican request for a special prosecutor to look into alleged bias at the Justice Department and the FBI. But he is authorizing an investigation and leaving the door open for more possible action later. Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry is here with the breaking details.
Good evening, Brett. This could be a big deal because what the Attorney General is really saying is he may not need a second special counsel just yet to find out whether FBI and Justice Department officials during the Obama years broke laws when they engaged in FISA abuse to spy on the Trump campaign, because he already has a criminal prosecutor all over it. Sessions revealing for the first time he already has been quietly having U.S. Attorney John Huber of Utah operating, of course, outside of the Beltway, using his prosecutorial powers with a broad mandate to investigate misconduct that could extend beyond FISA abuse. So former FBI officials James Comey, Andrew McCabe could be facing scrutiny for not just failing to tell the FISA judge that the anti-Trump dossier was paid for by the DNC and the Clinton campaign. This prosecutor could be looking at McCabe's leaking, his lying to investigators, plus those FBI text messages. Sessions writing, quote, "I am confident Mr. Huber's review will include a full, complete, and objective evaluation of these matters in a manner that is consistent with the law and the facts. I receive regular updates from Mr. Huber, and upon the conclusion of his review, will receive his recommendations as to whether any matters not currently under investigation should be opened, whether any matters currently under investigation require further resources, or whether any matters merit the appointment of a special counsel." Now, Sessions faced heat again last night when it was revealed the Justice Department Inspector General was reviewing this, and critics said that that official there does not have prosecutorial powers. Well, John Huber does. And remember, Sessions hinted at this without naming Huber in a recent interview with Shannon Bream. Watch.
I have appointed a person outside of Washington, many years in the Department of Justice, to look at all the allegations that the House Judiciary Committee members sent to us, and we're conducting that investigation.
Now, Huber was first nominated by then-President Barack Obama, so if he brings criminal charges, it will have credibility. Likewise, if he finds no criminal wrongdoing, it will be noted this was someone who was renominated by President Trump with the backing, we should note, of conservative Republican Utah Senator Mike Lee, Brett.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I trust Mike Lee, I think.
Mike Lee? Yeah, no, I've trusted Mike Lee for years.
But, I can't sit there and say that because Trump renominated somebody that Obama put up, that has any weight whatsoever. He's put so many people up that ended up kind of backstabbing him. And I know why. We all know that the big thing was that – hold on a second. The big thing was that Trump was trying to reach across the aisle. Rush Limbaugh has said multiple times, he's repeated this, that he had this conversation with Donald Trump, like on a golf course, wherever he was, I don't know. And he said that Trump believed that all this vitriol was going to go away after a couple of months of, that things are going to simmer down
simmer down now
and be okay after that all this vitriol and all this hatred coming from the left and the Democrats was just part of the act that they have to go through to try to win an election. Once the election's over, everything will be cool, and we're all going to get together, and we're all going to be bipartisan, and we're all going to work together to make America great again and to do the things that are going to fix America. And Trump was like, or Rush was like, that's not going to happen. And I hope that you don't. I hope you stop thinking that.
Pie in the sky. No, man.
Yeah, and so that's what we're seeing.
Right. So check this out. This special counsel Huber, or the special. Sorry, folks. This U.S. attorney who has prosecutorial powers, John Huber.
Yep.
No one in D.C., not even the President of the United States, knew that Jeff Sessions had this guy on the hook doing his job.
Cool.
That's
said, good.
Yeah, absolutely. He said he didn't want anybody knowing. I don't want anybody involved, especially Donald Trump. I don't want even Trump knowing. I want everybody to be in the dark about this so I can get the real deal.
Mike Lee may have known, though, maybe. If they're saying that he...
Nobody in D.C., so
okay.
If Mike Lee is in Utah, he's not out of D.C.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so nobody in D.C. Huber is a U.S. attorney first nominated by Obama and reconfirmed by Trump. It is believed that once the I.G. Horowitz report comes out, Huber will start dropping indictments. And I found out today that the I.G. report is out, and people are in trouble, folks. People are in trouble, and I'm excited about it.
Isn't there a whole bunch of sealed indictments? Like hundreds of them, maybe even thousands.
It's possible.
I know there were hundreds at one point. I remember when there were like a dozen, and people were so excited about a dozen indictments, and then it turned into like a couple of dozen, and people were like, "Oh my goodness!" But they're all sealed,
so you can't see the name. It's like redacted name.
And not only that, but they have not been actually executed. So there's people who are indicted that don't even know it yet. So it's like kind of waiting to be blown up and whatever.
I hope I'm not on that list.
You could be.
Man.
Just saying.
So I told you before there's this group, this organization out there that refers to themselves, calls themselves JTF MAGA.
Really? What's that?
JTF MAGA.
Sounds like a meat company. JTM.
JTM, right? One America News, if you've ever seen them, OAN, One America News. You can catch them on YouTube. They're a great channel to watch. And they did an inside, it's about a 3-minute clip, an inside expose of what's really going on. Who's the good guys? Is there anybody that's good in the deep state?
Probably. There's got to be somebody.
Because when we say deep state, we mean people that are not elected officials, but people that have been
permanent employees.
Permanent employees.
Yeah, they put in their resume, they got hired, they're officially a government employee, but they don't get elected and they don't have term limits or anything like that. They are just there forever, and they operate the government.
And it's almost impossible to fire them.
Oh, that's a whole different story. That's kind of like, okay, they're also in the union, and they got union representation, and they got collective bargaining. And
well, you saw what happened in Venezuela. The union garbage man became president.
Yeah, that could be a problem. But the problem with the deep state is most government employees are either already active communists or they're kind of coerced into becoming a communist if they weren't very political to begin with. We've actually seen this in real time with a deep state employee of the government that we know. And, it's problematic. It's definitely problematic. If you're influenced or a person that is able to be influenced, you could definitely be susceptible to active operatives in the deep state who are coercing people or peer pressuring people into buying into Marxist ideology. And that's what I'm this is not conspiracy theory. I'm just
fact.
I'm reporting my observations based on interviews with people who are in the deep state. So that's what the deep state is.
Okay.
Former members of the deep state form a new group dedicated to exposing illegal surveillance by government agencies. Here's One America's Neil McCabe with more.
William Binney left the NSA after nearly 40 years of service to the surveillance agency in the Army. Today, he is a member of a new group of deep state whistleblowers from the DOJ, the FBI, and the intelligence community who call themselves JTF MAGA.
Interesting.
There are more than 100 JTF MAGA members, which includes 33 recent intelligence community members and 14 DOJ and FBI whistleblowers, including Binney. The group is dedicated to exposing illegal surveillance by government agencies that has become so pervasive that those agencies operate as a law unto themselves. Binney told One American News there is no way to avoid surveillance.
If you really want to get away from their surveillance, you basically have to stop using any electronic device.
Oh, my gosh.
Even your credit cards. You can't use your credit cards. They know where you are, what you bought, and fundamentally, I have a good idea when you left.
Okay, real quick, folks. That just reminded me of something. The bomber out there in Texas, we've got inside information on that. That bomber in Texas was being watched. He was being trailed, being watched.
Is that exclusive? Does anybody else know that?
I don't know. Well, the media's the guy who told me, who's, you know him. He's credible as all get out. He was laughing at the media reporting about the bomber in Texas because they all got it. They all had no idea. They're like, no, the government has no idea what they're doing. No, they were watching him. They were trailing him. They were watching his credit card purchases. And also it seemed that they were looking at who he was connected to at was it UPS or what was the
FedEx?
Was it FedEx?
Well, I don't know what his connection was, but he was FedEx. He was mailing stuff through FedEx,
and they believed that in order to mail something through FedEx like that, you might have to have a connection. And I worked as a contractor for FedEx, and they are tight at the airport. Very difficult to get stuff through. Anyways, and that's what this story would be about. They just start trailing somebody, whether they got a warrant or not, which violates Fourth Amendment. Anyways, I digress.
Binney said another abuse is the practice of parallel construction. where an intelligence agency can comb through an individual's life until they find something illegal.
And then create, they find somebody they don't like, then they come up with a story based on what they saw in him. It's what they did with Trump.
Right.
Search is without a warrant. It is up to the police to contrive an investigation where they look for what they already have.
They pass that information to state and local police for them to go arrest those people. And when they do that, they have another set of rules that come down from the DOJ that they can't talk about the source of information that allowed them to direct the police to do the arrest.
Benny said when it came to the Obama administration's surveillance of the Trump campaign, the reason the FBI only needed FISA warrants on 2 people, Carter Page and Paul Manafort, is that President Barack Obama signed an order making 2-hop surveillance the default.
Basically, by getting they'd only really need 1, but if they had 2.
2 hops mean that surveillance can start with Paul Manafort and then go 1 hop more to everyone he had contact with. The second hop means the government can also monitor everyone those people had contact
That's
with.
millions.
Then he said
Obama signed
JTF
that.
MAGA is coming together now to encourage other members of the deep state to come forward.
Do you realize how many millions of people that is?
Abuses of the national security surveillance program.
Hold on a second.
And to support.
So, real quick on the math, really quick, because we're not even. You have it in the corner. Okay.
We got 30 minutes.
Right there. I'm just playing with our little graphic. I didn't realize that you could see us right now. So, real quick on the math. If you have contact with 1,000 people, which some people say 1,000, you probably do. I mean, how many people? If you're older and you spent a lifetime building a contacts list on your cell phone, I mean, I know I have over 1,000. How many friends do you have on Facebook? If you have contact with that many people, and theoretically, if each one of those people,
just do 100. Just do me. Say they're looking at me, and I have contact with 100 people.
Okay. If those people, now that's easy. I would say I would guarantee that. Right. I would guarantee you have contact with 100 people. And each one of those 100 people have contact with 100 people, which that we already know. That's a guarantee. You're going to have
some
contact.
may even have more.
If you're a total hermit, I would say
we just
only
talked.
100.
We just talked to Laura Loomer.
Yeah.
We've talked to Trevor Loudon.
Right.
And we talked to Gary Byrne.
Oh my gosh, thousands.
This is 3 people right there.
Right. So if it's 100 and 100, you're basically allowing the government to surveil 10,000 people. 10,000 people. If you have 1,000 connections and each of those have 1,000 connections, that's 1 million people. So only 2 degrees of separation, you're up to 1 million people.
And you're doing it to 2 people, Manafort and Page. It's 2 million people.
Not that he's saying that you're going a third step, but if you can go 1 million, the third step is 1 billion.
Oh, then you've got everybody in America.
Yeah, and the fourth step is 1 trillion.
You got everybody in America, in the world.
Yeah. So
you can look at anybody you want.
Yeah. If you can make a connection, if you can argue that you can make a connection with 1,000 people, then 2 degrees of separation is 1 million people.
And so Obama made the connection, signed off on two hop. That's on 2 people.
Minimum tens of thousands. Minimum.
2 hop on 2 people could be up to 2 million.
It would take a large number of CIA people a lot of time to investigate that many people. And that's pretty much everybody that they could possibly find.
Right. And they wouldn't investigate that many people. They just did it because they knew who they wanted to look at, which were people in the Trump campaign. This is exponentially worse than the IRS.
You only need 2 hops
scandal.
to pretty much get whoever the hell you want. If you want to surveil whoever the hell you want, you go 2 hops and that's it. You got it.
Well, was Manafort not talking directly to Donald Trump?
And how many connections does he have? Probably way more than 1,000. So you can contact and surveil anybody that he has, and then everybody that they have.
Why do you think General Flynn pulled the ripcord and said, "Nah, man, not my family. I'm out."
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? I would. Oh.
President Donald Trump.
I think he's the one. I mean, he has no obligation to anybody there. He's not a politician. He is the best opportunity we have to have this changed.
Benny and his fellow members of JTF MAGA say they are motivated by the conduct of the FBI and other government agencies during the 2016 election cycle. They don't deny that they are deep staters, but they would say they are deep staters wearing the white hats. Neil W. McCabe, One America News, Washington.
We can use your help.
No, you can't.
If you want to help OAN out, go ahead. Whatever. So
call your cable provider and kindly demand that.
Hey, that's cool. I'd like to have OAN on cable.
Call today.
In fact, replace CNN.
Dude, throw OAN out there, replace CNN.
There you go. I think they should be on cable. So, yeah. The thing, man, this is really bad. We've got a major problem here. We got a constitutional crisis.
I don't think that Obama's still not involved.
You have judges ordering marshals to search and seize a journalist's property in a public courthouse
connected to Obama
in order to just deny them their Fourth Amendment right. And to deny them their First Amendment right, which is what happened to Laura Loomer. I mean, this is really scary. They're attacking our Second Amendment. I mean, it's already been thoroughly attacked for almost 100 years. I mean, it was 1934 that they came out with the first ban on automatic weapons. And then in 1968, there was another big gun control measure, both of which are completely unconstitutional. I got into a big, nasty argument with a follower. We're no longer following each other, and that's good. I didn't block him, and he didn't block me, so that's okay too. But this guy was just irate because his Second Amendment rights were gone, in his words, his opinion. And I just want to point out to people that these rights are still in the Constitution, and the Constitution is still the supreme law of the land. If you want to shoulder strap a fully automatic machine gun right into a government building, they really can't stop you. And the Black Panthers actually proved this back in the 70s. They actually marched in on, I believe it was the California, possibly state capitol building. They walked in formation, a whole platoon of them with machine gun. I think it was AR-15s or M16s or whatever, shouldered, and it startled the hell out of everybody.
Yeah.
But nobody got in trouble because they were exercising their Second Amendment right. And it's kind of interesting. I never knew about that until I saw a documentary on the Black Panthers. But this is absolutely protected by the supreme law of the land. All these laws that are, well, they call them regulations. Some of them are called regulations, that ATF regulations that make it illegal for you to possess any kind of an arm that they call a machine gun. When you see a regulation that says it is illegal to possess a machine gun, well, let me reword that for you. The word possess is a synonym with keep and bear.
Right.
All right. And a machine gun is by definition an armament, or for short, arms. So when they say it is illegal to possess a machine gun, that is a direct one-to-one violation of the Second Amendment, period. And and some people say, well, you still get arrested. Right. Well, that's when you have to fight your battle in court. That's how the law works in the United States. The legislature makes an unconstitutional law, and it is a law, and you can get arrested for it, but you're supposed to fight these things in court. And it's supposed to, it could either be overturned by any court, but if it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court upholds it, then maybe it's just like Heller versus D.C.
Right.
You know, this guy sued for his right to bear arms, and it was barely upheld, but it was, and he has the Second Amendment was upheld, and that's how you got to do it. So don't cower down and say, we don't have a Second Amendment right. It's gone. No, it's actually written in the Second Amendment.
Right.
Nobody appealed or amended the Second Amendment of the Constitution. It's not gone. It's still there. You just have to fight for the right that you still have. You have the right. You just have to fight for it. There's going to be people out there that, called the ATF that are saying, no, we're going to arrest you. But you know what? What they're doing is illegal and unconstitutional, and you have to fight for it.
Janet Reno.
Yeah.
And the Sacramento Bee.
I'm probably going to insult a lot of people here, but I can't remember. Was it the Bundys and some other people that were occupying the federal lands?
Yeah, the Bundy family.
There were some other families involved too, and it ended up causing somebody to get shot and killed. A lot of people were like, well, what they were doing was illegal and blah, blah. Those people were let off. And the reason they were let off is because they were exercising their rights and they were standing up to power, and it cost somebody their life. And I think that is a huge travesty, and I hope that the government, our taxpayers, take care of that person's family.
I was
and
told
everything.
Trump gave it back. I was told that Trump cleared it out and let him go.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they were right.
Right.
Look at Ruby Ridge is a good example. The ATF goes in there.
Don't get me involved in that one. Lord.
Murders somebody in cold blood.
Shot the man's wife in the head.
Right.
In front of her children and him through the window, a sniper.
Yeah, without any due process whatsoever.
There was nothing.
Turns out, after all the due process was through, turns out that the government and the ATF were in the wrong. I think they awarded him $3 million, but it's never enough. You can't replace your wife and your family and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, the ATF got a little slap on the wrist. All it did was cost the taxpayers $3 million, and the ATF went on to conduct the atrocity at Waco.
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you saw the show Waco, which I'm sure is a little biased, but in the show Waco, they pretty much paint the picture that the ATF did Waco in an attempt to repair the PR damage they did at Ruby Ridge.
Dude, that was exponentially worse.
Right. They actually, they were under pressure to be disbanded, like literally dissolved. The ATF dissolved. They were under pressure that was going to happen to them. So they scoured the country for an operation that they could perform that would make them look to the public as if that they are a necessary agency. And they found that this David Koresh guy in Waco was amassing a arsenal, which, by the way, is 100% legal per the Second Amendment.
Yes!
You can amass whatever arsenal you want. The ATF decided this has got to be for something bad.
Food and families. It was a compound. And they interviewed. I saw one documentary from way back in the day that interviewed people that lived in that town. They said, "Oh yeah, we know them. They're very polite, very pleasant, well mannered. The kids are always clean.
Kids that were
yes sir,
well-behaved.
no sir.
Yeah." Mm-hmm. Well, they figured that the arsenal must be either some sort of military paramilitary, whatever, uprising, or it was going to be used in mass suicide. They just assumed that has to be it. That was their conclusion. And so to save all the children, we need to go in and kill them all. And that's what they did.
Janet Reno.
Yeah, Janet Reno's fault.
And Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton, Janet Reno.
So Sacramento Bee reporting May 2nd, 1967. 24 armed Negroes entered the state capitol at noon today, and 10 made their way to the back of the assembly chamber before they were disarmed, marched away by the state police. The assembly was in session, and at the time, the speaker, Carlos B., ordered the men removed from the chamber. The story ends happily, though. The cops took them outside, and they questioned them for a little bit, and after quit, they gave them all back. Said, all right, man, be on your way.
They gave them all their arms back.
All their arms
back? This is
back?
in California.
Sacramento!
California.
The state capital.
Yeah. Walked in there armed. Were ordered to leave. Now, I do believe that they have the right to ask people that come in to leave.
If you're they were in session. They were in the middle of conducting government official business.
Right. And so whatever reason, and that's why I wanted to question Laura Loomer more as to what does the judge have the right to do? Like he's allowed to keep order.
Right. Well, the Huffington Post reported that Laura Loomer was getting out of control.
Based on what I've seen and read, even read in the Huffington Post, doesn't sound like I think that she reached the threshold of being out of control or causing some sort of disruption. Doesn't sound like that at all.
No, I'd agree 100%.
It's not like she stormed the front of the court like she stormed the stage in Manhattan, which I also think was kind of funny and appropriate for the matter, for the subject matter. And the questions she asked, I thought, were very interesting and insightful, and I appreciated those questions because those are the kind of questions that I think should be posed
asked,
in those circumstances. You know, you talk about coloring Easter eggs when you're a Muslim. It's like, wait, can you expand on that a little bit? You know, I love those questions. I love it.
Folks, this is the Second Amendment has been attacked and attacked and attacked repeatedly. There's a historian named Saul Comwell who states that some states have passed some of the first gun control laws, beginning with Kentucky's law to curb the practice of carrying concealed weapons in 1813.
Wow.
1813.
I don't understand why there's something wrong with the weapon being concealed. I think that if we allow for the right to bear arms as written in the Constitution, meaning you can keep and bear arms, it doesn't say anything about whether it can be hidden or not, that causes an expectation among the entire population that anybody could actually be armed. And we know you could just do the thought experiment yourself. Imagine living in a society where every single person you see may or may not be armed. You want to talk about civility. I mean, you wouldn't want to be impolite to anybody.
Right.
And I think that's what we're missing big time in society today, is a little bit of civility and politeness and all that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of that missing. No, I agree 100%. So anyways, that article was by Wikipedia, and very interesting. So attacking the Second Amendment shortly after the Second Amendment was made, the Second Amendment. Good times.
Yeah, so it's pretty much been under attack since day one. Right. People shouldn't be allowed to. You know, Brian, I was insulting you and assaulting you because I thought you were unarmed. You were hiding a gun. Had I known that you were hiding that gun, I wouldn't have abused you the way I did.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't think that concealed weapons should be allowed. I want to know before the person that before I decide to insult and assault a person.
Right.
I want to make sure, I want to be able to see with my own eyes whether or not you have a side holster or a shotgun or whatever, for you to conceal that from me. And
it'd be
not
like lying to you. I was lying to you.
You're a very dishonest person by hiding that weapon, because it caused me to think that I could get away with abusing you.
I'm also hiding a piercing underneath my shirt too. Come on, man, what are we talking about? This is lunacy. I hate to think that there's a liberal listen right now that may run with this thought process.
That's the problem. That's the problem I have with concealed or laws against concealed weapon. It's like, what's the problem with somebody hiding a weapon? It's like I have a problem with it being illegal to record somebody without their knowledge.
Some states don't.
Oh,
some states do.
A ton make it illegal.
I think it was like two. I think it was two.
Well, Georgia's you're allowed, and D.C., and it might be Washington State or something like that. Almost every other place in the United States.
They have to have your knowledge.
Yeah, you have to let them know first before you can record them in a conversation. My whole thing is this. It's like, what are you saying that would be embarrassing to be let out? Or
I don't know, Kerry. If I start recording us and we don't know about it.
Maybe if you're in a private setting and you say...
Watch out, locker room talk.
Let's say locker room talk. Let's say that for instance.
Get Billy Bush on the horn.
Right. I would say that if you tell somebody, hey, I just want to let you know that this is off the record, or that this is not to be recorded, or whatever, I think that's fine. I would say that if you are recording after that moment, I would say that should be something that you should be protected on. If you tell somebody, hey, I just want to let you, it's just between you and me. If you say something like that, Brian, we're in a private setting, we're in a room, and if I were to say, Brian, this is just between you and me, and you happen to be recording this, and you don't let me know, well, I know you said that, but I'm recording. Or
that should be null and void. That recording should not even
I'm totally cool, and I should be allowed to sue you if that recording were to go into the newspaper or on a website or on a viral video or whatever. I think I should be allowed to sue you for that. That's fine. But if I don't say that, I think it should just be the default setting should be, hey, the guy you're talking to right now might be recording you, instead of the default setting being, hey, if you're talking to somebody in a private setting, he has the right for you not to be recording that. That's my take on it. A lot of people may disagree. A lot of people get really antsy pants of the thought that they might be recorded.
Well, it's kind of like the default setting on your phone is to not ring. Well, why would I want that? I would want the default setting to ring.
Right.
It doesn't make any. Why would the default setting expose me to something I have no knowledge of?
I'm saying the default setting should be that you're being recorded. You should
okay. I'm going to the default setting is
that you're not being recorded.
I'm saying you're not allowed.
Right. My opinion is you should just assume you're being recorded. Yeah. But if you're in a private setting and you say the words or anything similar to, this is just between you and me.
Okay.
That right there, you have just now manually put the setting to, now this is private and you're not allowed to record me. Or if you are recording me, you are not allowed to let anybody else hear that recording.
Okay.
It must be either deleted or just remain private until I'm dead or something like that. I don't know. It's a discussion. I would like to hear the argument the other way. It sounds to me like you're for the default setting is privacy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we don't agree then. So you actually are for all of the laws outside of Georgia, D.C., and wherever that one other place is. I think there's only three places in all of the United States where you're allowed to conceal a recording of somebody.
See, my only problem is that you might run across entrapment.
I
you
could see that.
Carrie, I could be talking about something. I'm recording this, and I get you to say something that you didn't mean to say, or get you to.
I know what you're talking about. This happens a lot. I think everybody goes through this. You're talking to somebody. I'll give you an example. Let's do a specific example. Total, full-blown racist. Full-blown.
Okay.
I'm talking Ku Klux Klan, just whatever. And you are in a private setting with this person. And he says something really racist, and you don't push back, you don't reject it, you don't oppose it.
That means you support it.
You may even kind of chuckle and laugh and act like you are with him.
So as not to get beat up.
Either not get beat up or just kind of have a social cohesion before you finally get the hell out of there and say, whew, I'm glad I'm out of that guy.
That bullet. Good
Meanwhile,
Lord.
He's recording you, and he runs with that like, look at Carrie. He's totally on board with this anti-black, anti-Jewish, whatever.
See, we're good to go. Carrie's part of the team.
When in reality, you were just trying to maintain some sort of social cohesion in that really awkward environment until you got the hell out of Dodge. That happens all the time. And that does that mean that person's you don't have to be a social justice warrior. And by the way, as a conservative, when I think of social justice warrior, most people think of that far left people that you hate. But if I'm in a setting where there's somebody being totally racist and I say, hey, you know what, I don't agree with that and I think you're wrong for saying it, I'm actually being a social justice warrior. I'm being a warrior for the social justice of this person being racist, and I don't agree with it, and I'm actually trying to do something about it by saying that. So that is social justice warrior.
So if you're listening to the show, we are now currently interviewing SJW. Social justice warrior.
Who, me?
It was jokes.
Oh, so what my point is you don't have to be a social justice warrior for your own social justice.
Right.
In a private setting with a total, you don't have to do. I mean, what's the point? What are you doing? I mean, if you're not trying to maintain a friendship with this person. You're just like, okay, well, that's great. And oh man, look at the time.
Yeah.
You know what? I am so late. I'm double parked in a handicap zone.
Left the car running with the kids in the back seat.
With the windows up in the hot sun.
There's a dog in there, too, somewhere.
I gotta go. Wow, look at the time. So you do all that. Meanwhile, he's recording you. You're right. Entrapment. That's entrapment.
So as we were talking about the Second Amendment, we kind of veered off that a little bit. I want to wrap this up.
We're talking about all kinds of rights.
Yeah, let me run this down real fast. And this is what social justice warriors do. Laura Ingraham got herself wrapped up in something that she was unprepared for. Never go full or never apologize to a social justice warrior.
I have to be quick on this. We got a couple minutes before the show's over, and I wanted to tell you what Paul Joseph Watson said about this. So go ahead.
Ingram said, tweeted out, David Hogg rejected by 4 colleges to which he applied for, whines about it, 4.1 GPA, totally predictable. Hogg came back, she came back with an apology. Hogg came back and said, I 100% agree with the apology, effort to save your advertisers. Fred Gutenberg, whose daughter died in Parkland, an apology to save your advertisers is not enough. What you did was disgusting. Our message. Okay, so Hogg said, so, Ingram, what are your biggest advertisers asking for a friend? Hogg, pick a number 1 through 12. Contact the company next to that number.
And he lists all the people that are supporting Ingram with their advertising dollars.
This has gone full-blown
social justice warrior.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going. This is the typical leftist tactic.
Wrong. Don't ever apologize to a leftist.
By the way, I don't blame him for doing this because it keeps working over and over and over again, even against Sean Hannity, whose support is not going away. His numbers do not go away.
He ran away from Seth Rich.
Well, that was because he only ran from Seth Rich because the grieving family, begged him to stop, and he said, "For the grieving families, I'll stop."
Oh, it wasn't advertisers.
No, but
what was the one that he ran away
here's
from?
The thing.
Oh, go ahead.
They started pulling. The advertisers still started pulling from him, even though his support's not going away.
Right.
His support is going to be there to patronize the advertisers. It's a huge business mistake to pull your advertising from a Sean Hannity. Laura Ingraham, I suspect similar. But one thing I'd like to say, so that's what's happening, Laura Ingraham. I went out and tweeted out to all these companies, thank you for supporting Laura Ingraham, and I plan on patronizing you for your business, blah, 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 and hopefully others do that, and I think it's going to backfire. Paul Joseph Watson pointed out something that's kind of along the same lines as this story. That is, the reason why Laura's being attacked is because she attacked David Hogg, who is actually an adult, but there's a lot of these people who are not adults. But he is a high school student. A lot of these high school students are not even adults. Paul Joseph Watson pointed out that he's now supporting the protests.
Oh, okay.
The reason he's supporting the protests is because all of this protesting of the Second Amendment is actually helping the poll numbers of Trump, Republicans. Look at the donations the NRA tripled this month. So Paul Joseph Watson's like, well, if that's the result of this, I support it. But he pointed out something interesting, too, that I hope Laura Ingraham will hear, and that is, guys, it's not a good look for us to attack high school kids. Just don't do it. In fact, supporting them and their cause is helping our numbers. It's lighting a fire under these conservatives who, for whatever reason, are deciding not to show up to the polls, and now they feel like they have a cause to rally around.
Right.
So support them, but guys, stop attacking the high school kids.
It's not winning anybody over.
It makes us look bad. And we don't need to. We can support them in attacking the Second Amendment because it's helping us. Their attacks against the Second Amendment are really boosting the numbers for conservatives, and so there you go.
Never apologize to a liberal. I'm sorry. You can't.
Yeah. I'm not going to apologize for it. But I just think it's I agree with Paul Joseph Watson that I've been going way out of my way to not attack any of the victims, especially if they're underage. I know David Hogg is an adult, so it's kind of like, well, he's fair game. But, he lost friends from his school and all this kind of stuff. But his message is bad and it's failing.
Right. And
so just here's exactly what Paul Joseph. Don't interrupt your opposition when they're destroying themselves.
Yes, absolutely. And you've got John Levin. He's the Media Matters chief.
Okay.
So you got a liberal think tank. On Laura Ingraham boycott, you can expect more advertisers to leave. Fox News is reckless propaganda machine. It's bad for business.
Not really.
What?
No, it's the opposite. This is them trying to influence your opinion.
Correct. 100%.
It's not reporting any kind of a factual thing that's happening. How you looking on time?
Yeah, we're about there.
Okay.
Lastly, just this real quick, Catherine Heritage on Fox News. If we had time for it, I had a video clip on it, but we don't. There was an American photojournalist, Matt Schreier, who shouldn't have been in Syria, but went to Syria anyways during 2012 to investigate and make history by taking pictures, got kidnapped. The FBI watched his bank accounts and his money go away as Al-Qaeda bought dozens and dozens of computers and military boots. And so the FBI didn't do anything because they were able to watch the computers. They didn't help him. He had to escape.
He escaped.
And he's really upset.
Oh, boy.
Shouldn't have been there, man. But, yeah, no, the FBI, more problems with the FBI. It's just unbelievable. I don't know when or how or if it's going to ever resolve itself, but we'll find out.
That's our show, folks.
Woo! Everybody follow us. Share this with your friends and family on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. This is Smyth Radio, Military Veteran Talk Radio. Sunday evenings, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Stay tuned.
And happy Easter to everybody.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.